Chapter 1879, Mouth-to-Mouth Resuscitation 3. Mouth. Mouth-to-mouth. Zhou Kun was shocked. Fuck. No wonder he felt that his breathing was not smooth. It turned out that he had been kissed by someone. No, he was kissed by a Sawu. This hateful guy, he had always been the one taking advantage of others. He didn't expect that he would be taken advantage of by a Sao today. How could he accept this fact? His heart was filled with grief and sorrow. He looked at Ji Yun and the others with eyes filled with flames of anger. As for Lung Ruoxue, his eyes were filled with grievance. Unfortunately, no matter how he reacted, Lung Ruoxue and the others ignored him. Seeing that Zhou Kun had woken up, Lung Ruoxue smiled and said to the woman, "Now you don't have to worry, right?" Yes. Thank you for helping me." The latter's gratitude was genuine, and she found Lung Ruoxue much more pleasing to the eye now. It's nothing. Since your little Kun has woken up, I'll leave him to you. You have to treat him well. It's getting late. We should go back and rest." After Lung Ruoxue finished speaking, she did not wait for the woman's reaction and brought baby, Mei, and Mo into her tent. After stirring things up for so long, this matter had finally come to a satisfactory end. She was very satisfied with this result. Not long after she returned to her tent, Ji Yun and the others also gave the woman some instructions before returning to their own residences. After Lung Ruoxue and the rest went to rest, Zhou Kun and the woman were the only ones left in the large open space, except for the burning bonfire. They were staring at each other. "Let me go." After a long while, Zhou Kun, who felt uncomfortable, struggled and thought, "This ugly woman is so strong." He had used all his strength, but he couldn't push her away. This fact made him quite depressed. He was a man. "You're injured. Be good and lie down. I'll take good care of you in the future." The woman patiently coaxed. Clearly, she took Ji Yun's words seriously. "I don't need you to take care of me." Zhou Kun was furious. Fuck. What did this woman mean? Could it be that she would have to stay by his side in the future? No way. Only an absolute beauty could be by his side. This woman was not qualified. "Little Kun, that's not up to you. I've already decided to have you in my harem. You're the first man I've taken a fancy to, and you'll be the boss of all men in the future. Are you happy?" The woman said with a smile. With this smile, all the flesh on her face was squeezed together, making her look even uglier. In fact, the reason why she had made up her mind so quickly had a lot to do with the encouragement from Ji Yun and the others. More importantly, her mother had said that she should make a move when it was time to. If she hesitated, she would only lose the opportunity. Therefore, after making her decision, she had already regarded Zhou Kun as her man. As for whether Zhou Kun was willing to do so, it was not within her consideration. After all, she was a god king. Could it be that he was not worthy of a god-tier master? With that in mind, Zhou Kun's future was decided. Upon hearing the woman's words, Zhou Kun was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Fuck. Still happy? Could he be happy? He had always regarded women as playthings, but he didn't expect that he would be played by an ugly monster. How could he accept this? No. He couldn't just sit and wait for death. Moreover, he could not let this ugly woman keep him as her exclusive property. Otherwise, he would rather die than live. One should know that he felt like vomiting just by looking at this ugly woman. If he really became her man, he would die young. Unfortunately, things would not go as he wished. Just as he was thinking of a solution, he suddenly felt a cold sensation on his wrist. Seeing this, he couldn't help but lower his head and suddenly saw a golden chain on his wrist. Fuck. What was this? What was the meaning of this? Did they think he was a dog? Little Kunkin. This is the token of our love, the love chain. With this, we will never be apart. The woman smiled in a very wretched manner and showed Zhou Kun the chain. The chain seemed to be only about a meter in length, and one end was tied to Zhou Kun's wrist, while the other end was tied to the woman's wrist. Zhou Kun felt like killing himself. Was he really going to tie him up like a dog? Zhou Kun's face turned livid with anger, and his chest heaved up and down continuously. Damn it! Where did this woman come from? She was such a bully. Seeing that Zhou Kun was excited again, The woman was so nervous that she did not know what to do. Little Kunkin. What's wrong? Where are you feeling uncomfortable? The woman said worriedly. After saying that, she nibbled on the 2 sausages on Jo Kun's face. It was the mouth-to-mouth resuscitation that had saved little Kunkin just now. Hence, she was sure that the mouth-to-mouth resuscitation was effective. As for Jo Kun, he was pressed down by the sudden gravity and almost lost his breath and fainted again. However, he did not faint this time. Jo Kun felt nauseated after being licked and gnawed by the woman without any skills. Moreover, the woman was using too much force and kept blowing into his mouth, causing him to feel a little pain. Hence, he was furious. He decided to teach this woman a good lesson on what kissing was. Unfortunately, he had forgotten that the patient was performing artificial respiration. In a fit of anger, Jo Kun lost his rationality and pressed down on the woman's head, after which he turned the tables on her and kissed her ruthlessly. In an instant, they were filled with passion, and the flames were burning between the 2 of them. The woman, who was dizzy from Jo Kun's kiss, was so excited that she grabbed Jo Kun's tattered clothes tightly, only to hear a sigh la. With a loud sound, Jo Kun's clothes were torn into pieces, and his body was exposed again. However, at this moment, the 2 of them had not realized this. The 2 of them were kissing and biting each other fiercely as if they were competing. In the tent, Baby was walking back and forth a little impatiently. From time to time, it would stick its little head out to take a look. When it saw the 2 of them burning with passion and unable to control themselves, its beautiful purple eyes flashed with a thought-provoking light. Then it stretched out its furry little paws. Following that, Lung Ruoxue picked up the small and exquisite baby. You little rascal. What are you up to again? Lung Ruoxue said helplessly. Hee. I just want to help that woman. Baby laughed evilly, not feeling guilty at all for being caught. She doesn't need your help. She can handle Jo Kun. Lung Ruoxue said in understanding. That woman was no ordinary person. She was definitely Jo Kun's nemesis. All right then. Baby was a little disappointed. Since its cute master had said so, it shouldn't be a busybody. Be good. Go back to your space and sleep. Lung Ruoxue caressed her precious little head. With a thought, she brought them into the medium. The next day, when Lung Ruoxue came out of the tent with Baby, Mei and Mo, the 3 little foxes, she was surprised to see Ji Yun and the rest who looked haggard. What was going on? It had only been one night. How could they be so down and out? What's wrong with you guys? Are you under attack? Lung Ruoxue teased. It's good if we really encounter an enemy attack. It was even worse than that. We didn't rest well yesterday. Look, I have dark circles under my eyes. Ji Yun exaggeratedly said with an aggrieved expression. What's wrong? Lung Ruoxue saw that Ji Yun was exaggerating and helplessly smiled. She had never heard of Shun-Yi having dark circles the next day if he didn't sleep at night. Little sister Ruoxue, didn't you hear anything last night? Seeing Lung Ruoxue's face full of question marks, Yuchen couldn't help but ask. I didn't. Lung Ruoxue was very honest. She would not really be sleeping in the tent at night, so how could she have heard any movements? Furthermore, if anything had happened, Qingju would have warned her. However, Qingju did not say anything last night, which naturally meant that everything had been fine the entire night. Hence, she really could not guess what they had encountered. You're probably sleeping too deeply. Yuchen said with a face full of envy. Then can you send a representative to tell me what happened last night? Seeing that no one had explained the reason to her even after a long time, Lung Ruoxue's curiosity was piqued. Since you didn't hear it, then it's better not to know. Ji Yun hurriedly said. What's the reason? Lung Ruoxue was a little unhappy. What did he mean by better not to know? Didn't they know that their mysterious behavior had already aroused her curiosity? We don't know what to say. It's a little hard to say. Yuchen chimed in. Actually, he had taken into consideration that Lung Ruoxue was a girl. Hence, subconsciously, he treated Lung Ruoxue as a child. Naturally, it was not good for her to know about this. Hard to say? Could it be that something that shouldn't have happened between you two? Lung Ruoxue deliberately laughed evilly. Why is it us? It's obviously Zhou Kun. When Ji Tao heard this, he was so frightened that he quickly clarified himself to avoid any misunderstandings with Leng Ruoxue. However, this way, Leng Ruoxue would naturally know who the person involved was. Since it's Zhou Kun, why are you so embarrassed to say it? Leng Ruoxue was a little speechless. Following that, she could not help but ask, what's Zhou Kun up to again? Can't that guy just stop? He's been taken advantage of. Last night, he even fainted a few times. Ji Yun's cheeks reddened as he spoke in an embarrassed manner. Of course, this was only a guess based on the woman's scream, but it was still close to the truth. Who did you say fainted? You're the one who fainted. Without giving Leng Ruoxue a chance to express her thoughts, a furious roar suddenly sounded out of thin air. However, there was a slight tremble in the rage. The person who roared was Zhou Kun, who had just stepped out of the tent. Chapter 1880. The Consequences of the Scheme. 1. When Zhou Kun heard Ji Yun's words, he was furious and was about to rush over to reason with him. However, he had just taken 2 steps forward when he staggered and fell to the ground with a thud. Behind him, a woman's exclamation was heard. Aya! My little Kun. How could you be so careless? Didn't I tell you not to walk so fast because you're so weak? Upon hearing that voice, Ji Yun and the others laughed secretly in their hearts. When they saw Zhou Kun's extremely embarrassed appearance, they laughed even more happily in their hearts. He did not expect Zhou Kun to have such a day. Weak my ass. Am very healthy. Although his body was a little weak, that was not the only reason why he had fallen. The main culprit that had caused him to fall was the chain on his hand. It was all because of that damn dog chain that he had made a fool of himself in front of everyone. Buxu? Then let's continue. I haven't had enough fun yet. The woman said in a carefree manner. Her words immediately frightened Zhou Kun, who was already pale and weak, and his face turned even uglier. Fuck. Still not satisfied? Am almost squeezed dry. Upon hearing that, Zhou Kun couldn't help but feel indignant in his heart. When he saw Ji Yun and the others sneering at him with their heads lowered from the corner of his eye, the anger in his heart burst out. They bullied me. If you teach them a lesson, they'll let you continue. Zhou Kun suddenly pointed at Ji Yun and the others and said, Humph. He was going all out. Although he couldn't defeat Ji Yun and the others, he had his own helpers. We're bullying you? When have we ever bullied you? Upon hearing Zhou Kun's words, Ji Yun and the others were speechless. Isn't Zhou Kun too good at using others' power? They had just found a backer, and now they wanted to give them a show of force? What a vile person. You guys were talking bad about me just now. I heard everything. Zhou Kun roared angrily, his face flushed red, and his listless eyes were rapidly filled with blood. Fuck. This time, he had been thrown to his grandmother's house. He was extremely sad and angry. Sob. He had been raped by that ugly woman. This matter had already caused him to feel aggrieved. However, he had now been treated as a joke by Ji Yun and the others. Not only that, the entire divine realm was probably aware of this matter. How would he be able to survive among the women in the future? As the saying goes, a single misstep would result in eternal hatred. He especially hated himself now. Why did he teach that ugly woman to kiss for no reason? In the end, he had harmed himself. Thinking about it now, he felt disgusted. Moreover, that ugly woman had warned him to drive away all the women around him, not leaving a single one behind. Otherwise, she would kill those women. This was definitely a threat. In reality, the current him really didn't care about those women by his side. The person he cared about the most right now was Leng Ruoxue, the woman whom he had yet to get his hands on. It was a pity that with this ugly tigress by his side, he was afraid that he wouldn't have the chance to be together with Miss Leng in the future. No way. This was absolutely not allowed. He had to work hard to fight for it. Otherwise, he would not give up. After thinking about this, he, who was originally depressed, looked at Leng Ruoxue with a determined gaze. However, his body was too weak now, and the tigress beside him was too fierce. Hence, he had to be extremely careful. He must not let that ugly woman see through his thoughts. Zhou Kun, who had made up his mind, retracted his gaze and looked at the woman beside him fawningly. He then said affectionately, Bao Bao, you have to help me. The woman's body immediately turned limp and soft when she heard the word leopard. She pulled Zhou Kuan into her arms and patted his back with her large palm leaf fan-like palm. She said heroically, "Little Kuan, don't worry. You're already mine, so your business is naturally my business. I, Meng Bao, will never let anyone bully you." After he finished speaking, Meng Bao glared at Ji Yun and the others. Leopard? Meng Bao. Ji Yun and the others ignored the woman's furious eyes. Their minds were filled with the love term and name they had just heard. This woman was called Meng Bao? Ji Yun and the others sized her up in disbelief. From the looks of it, her parents didn't even treat her as a girl. Why else would he give his daughter such a masculine name? Although this woman didn't look like a woman at all, her name was too. Who is Meng Liang to you? Suddenly Yu Chen asked. Hearing this name, he thought of a family he knew, because the names of the descendants of that family were all named after animals. My big brother. Do you know him? Although Meng Bao was a little stunned by Chen's question, she still answered truthfully, considering that she had been well educated. Yes, I'm friends with your big brother. Yu Shu said as he sized up Meng Bao thoughtfully. He did not expect that this person was actually Meng Liang's younger sister. However, if his memory was not wrong, Meng Liang had told him more than once that his younger sister was a rare and peerless beauty. She had a face that could captivate fish and wild geese, and a beauty that could outshine the moon and flowers. Not only that, Meng Liang would sometimes joke about letting him be the Meng family's son-in-law. Looking at Meng Bao, Yu Shu secretly shivered. Although he was not a person who judged people by their appearance, he could not afford to have such a wife. Since you're my big brother's friends, I'll let you off for bullying little Kuan. If there's a next time, I'll beat you up regardless of whether you're my big brother's friends or not. After listening to Yu Chen's words, Meng Bao said magnanimously. When Ji Yun and the others heard this, they secretly pouted. They did not bully Zhou Kuan, okay? They didn't need the leopard to show any mercy. With this, they felt like they owed the leopard a favor. It was an uncomfortable feeling. Miss Meng, I think you've misunderstood. No one is bullying your little Kuan. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue said with a faint smile. Upon hearing Lung Ruoxue's voice, Meng Bao suddenly remembered that there was a woman here. Little Kunkin is already one of my men, he warned angrily. So you have to stay away from him. Don't come within 3 meters of him. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Meng Bao's words caused Lung Ruoxue to be stunned. Immediately, her smile bloomed like 100 flowers, dazzling everyone's eyes. Following that, she sincerely guaranteed, "Don't worry, Miss Meng. I won't get within 3 meters of him, and I won't fight with you for him. I already have a fiancé. This is more like it." Meng Bao was very satisfied with Lung Ruoxue's tactfulness. However, Zhou Kuan was not. That ugly freak actually dared to threaten Miss Lung. It was really preposterous. However, he was in a disadvantageous position now, so he could only sulk in his heart, and did not dare to object. Thus, in order to vent his anger, he once again set his sights on Ji Yun and the others. Bao Bao, how can you let them go so easily? You said you would teach them a lesson for me. How could you lie to me? Zhou Kuan said with tears in his aggrieved eyes. Chapter 1881. The consequences of the scheme too. As soon as Meng Bao saw Zhou Kuan's expression, he immediately felt his heart ache and quickly coaxed him. Little Kuan, don't cry. They're my big brother's friends, so we'll let them go this time. If there's a next time and they dare to bully you again, I definitely won't give big brother any face. Please understand. You said it yourself. Zhou Kuan blinked his thunderous eyes a few times and confirmed. However, he couldn't help but think to himself, wasn't it easy for the other party to find trouble with him? As long as he provoked them with a few words, he could label them as bullying him. He couldn't help but think to himself proudly, we the Meng family have always been a man of our words. Don't worry. I would lie to anyone but you. Meng Bao said very seriously. That's good. Bao Bao, I'm tired. I'm going back to the tent to sleep for a while. After Zhou Kuan finished speaking, he glanced at Lung Ruoxue affectionately from the corner of his eyes. He then turned around and walked into the tent without looking back, followed by Meng Bao. After a short while, a special sound rang out in the tent, as well as Zhou Kun's plea for mercy. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue and the rest could not help but look at each other. Why did these two people not take a look at where they were when they were doing such things? Besides, didn't he go through a whole night of trouble yesterday? Why did you come in the morning? Ai. He had great physical strength, and she wondered if Zhou Kun could withstand it. The few of them thought to themselves. Then they finished their breakfast and sat together to discuss something. Brother Yu. Before I entered this place, I heard that the battle here would be very intense, but now that I've been here for more than half a month, I haven't met many people in total. How can I compete like this? What if I don't win a single match here? How will I be ranked? Lung Ruoxue was filled with question marks. The actual situation here was different from what her godfather had described. Hence, she had been harboring these questions in her heart for a long time. Ha ha ha. Little sister Ruoxue, why are you so anxious? We'll have to stay here for a month. Basically, during this month, only the last few days are when the battles are the most intense. Before that, everyone will think of ways to avoid meeting too many opponents and ensure that they can get a good ranking in the final stage. This is also a good way to preserve their strength. After hearing Lung Ruoxue's question, Yuchen patiently explained. Ruoxue, didn't I tell you? As long as we find a place to hide, we might not even need to fight to get a place. Ji Yin pouted and said unhappily. This was because Ruoxue did not ask him this question. It can't be that everyone is hiding, right? Lung Ruoxue was speechless. Hehe. It's not impossible. Ji Yin laughed smugly. Even if they aren't hiding, I'm afraid that many of the participants are looking for a place to recuperate. They won't take the initiative to attack now. After all, it's not the right time yet. Otherwise, it will affect the later matches. Yuchen also said. In that case, even if we search the entire place, we won't be able to find many opponents. Lung Ruoxue asked, feeling a little depressed. You can't say that. There are still people who like to fight. However, this place is not small, so it's not easy to meet an opponent. I've been here for so many days, and besides Lu Sun, I've only met you guys. Yushu said with a faint smile. Let's continue our journey in a while. Lung Ruoxue thought for a moment before suggesting. She didn't want to stay in the same place all the time as it would be too passive. Moreover, the barrier between the groups no longer existed. She also wanted to see if she could find the demon, Lu Tao, Fengde, and the others. Yes, but what about Zhou Kun and Meng Bao? Do you want to travel with them? Yuchen couldn't help but ask. In fact, it would be good if he could have a temporary ally here. Unfortunately, among those two guys, one was unreliable and the other was a waste. Therefore, he was a little conflicted. I don't care, it depends on what they think. Lung Ruoxue said disapprovingly. In her eyes, it made no difference whether the two of them were around or not. They could not affect her anyway. Moreover, with Meng Bao around, Zhou Kun would probably not dare to harass her anymore. This was a good thing for her. Which one of you will go and ask them later? Yuchen swept a glance at Lung Ruoxue and the rest as he asked calmly. He had no intention of asking those two anyway. Lung Ruoxue and the others exchanged glances and fell silent. None of them wanted to ask. He didn't want to disturb the couple. Oh, go ask. Oh, go ask them. At this time, Baby volunteered to stretch out his claws, his little face full of excitement. Lung Ruoxue's forehead was filled with black lines when she saw how enthusiastic Baby was. What was Baby planning to do this time? This little thing who only wished for the world to be in chaos. Baby, I'll leave this matter to you. Ji Yin hurriedly said as soon as he saw that the beast had taken the initiative to take over the matter. It was as if he was afraid that the beast would go back on its word, or that its master would not allow it to go. Don't worry, I'll definitely get this done properly. Baby patted his chest and promised. After saying that, it bounced and ran to the outside of Zhou Kun's tent, waiting for the right time. However, after waiting for 2 days, the young couple did not come out of the tent. Suddenly, the baby wilted. Was its mission going to end in failure? Baby was very depressed. No. It would not allow its mission to fail. After making up his mind, Baby began to think of a good plan. How could he get the two people who had forgotten themselves out of the tent? This gave the beast a headache. After thinking about it for a day and a night, Baby asked Ling to help it hide on a dark and windy night. Taking advantage of the fact that there was no one around, it took the flame that it had gotten from a certain phoenix and old dragon, and quietly came to the outside of Zhou Kun's tent. Its beautiful purple eyes looked around first, then it secretly put one of its small claws into the tent. After doing all this, Baby took small steps back to his own tent. Arg! Help me! It's on fire! Late at night, an earth-shaking cry suddenly woke up Ji Yun and the others from their dreams. When they heard the cry, they hurriedly ran out of the tent to take a look, only to see Zhou Kun's tent being burned to ashes in front of their eyes. Fortunately, Zhou Kun and Meng Bao were not in any serious danger, but they were obviously frightened and looked extremely embarrassed. What is this? How did it catch fire? Lung Ruoxua also came out of the tent with her precious little beasts. She asked Zhou Kun in puzzlement when she saw his tent, which was in ruins and had already been burned to ashes. We don't know either, we were sleeping soundly. Meng Bao said fearfully. As long as she thought of the scorching flames, she would still have a lingering fear. Fortunately, they had run away quickly. Otherwise, they would have been burned to ashes with the tent. Chapter 1882. The Consequences of the Scheme 3. The fire was so hot and the temperature was extremely high. He really didn't know what kind of flame it was. She had lived for so long, but she had never seen such a terrifying flame. Meng Bao's heart trembled whenever she thought of the terrifying flame just now. However, even if she cracked her head, she would not be able to guess what kind of flame it was. It was because there was more than one type of flame. The baby's original intention was to get the two of them out of the tent, so it did not intend to harm their lives. Therefore, the little flame it threw out was not big at all, at most a small spark. However, no matter how small the flame was, it belonged to the dragon and phoenix, and was of extremely high quality. Otherwise, the tent would not have been set on fire. As for the person, the fire had been specially treated by its owner. Although it looked terrifying, it would not burn them. Unfortunately, Zhou Kun and Meng Bao were not aware of this, and the treasure would not take the initiative to tell them that it was the one who had set the fire, so it was not dangerous. Therefore, the two of them could only live with the shadow of the fire for the rest of their lives. What are your thoughts now? Lung Ruoxua continued to ask. Seeing Zhou Kun and Meng Bao's miserable and pitiful appearance, she knew without a doubt that the culprit must be treasure. We don't know either. Zhou Kun and Meng Bao looked at each other, and saw a trace of fear in each other's eyes. Are you planning to stay here and cuddle, or are you going to leave? Lung Ruoxua couldn't help but roll her eyes and asked helplessly, sigh. It was just a little fire, and it scared the two of them to this extent. To think that they were gods. He was too timid. We're preparing to leave. Lung Ruoxua added. Oh, go with you. Upon hearing that, Zhou Kun did not ask for Meng Bao's opinion. Instead, he said impatiently, Boo, I don't want to be with this ugly tigress anymore. Otherwise, I'll lose my life sooner or later. Who do you want to go with? Upon hearing this, Meng Bao pulled Zhou Kun into his arms and asked with a hostile expression and half-squinted eyes, as if she would teach him a lesson if he said anything wrong. Zhou Kun was so frightened that he immediately changed his words. I'll go with you. Of course with you. What I mean is, we'll travel with them. Why do we have to travel with them? Can't the two of us go together? We can spend some time alone. Meng Bao laughed in a rather wretched manner. Upon hearing her words, Zhou Kun really wanted to roll his eyes and pass out. Fuck. Who would want to spend time with her alone? Hadn't he been tortured enough for the past few days? If it was really just the two of them, he would probably die of exhaustion before he could leave this place. Sop. This woman was too scary. At the thought of this, Zhou Kun's eyes began to wander around Ji Yun and the others. Doesn't this ugly monster want to build a harem? Then he would fulfill her wish. In this way, she would not pay much attention to him. With this thought in mind, he began to size up Ji Yun and the others even more impudently. Ji Yun and the others were covered in goosebumps from Zhou Kun's scheming gaze. They sensed that Zhou Kun seemed to be up to no good, and immediately raised their vigilance. At this moment, Zhou Kun lowered his head and whispered to Meng Bao. Bao Bao, what do you think of those men? Do you want to take them into your harem? You're saying. Upon hearing Zhou Kun's words, Meng Bao could not help but look at Ji Yun and the others. At that moment, Ji Yun and the others became even more careful. Fuck. Although they didn't know what Zhou Kun was up to, they knew that he wouldn't do anything good. Unfortunately, the two of them were communicating through voice transmission, so they couldn't hear him even if they wanted to. They could not hear it, but Lung Ruoxue could. After sensing Zhou Kun's sneaky actions, Lung Ruoxue had already instructed Qing Ju to read their minds. However, the result made her a little speechless. She really did not know what Zhou Kun was thinking. Could it be that because he was in trouble, he was going to drag Ji Yun and the others down with him? However, judging from Meng Bao's words, he did not seem to be very interested in Ji Yun and the others. Otherwise, Zhou Kun would never have the chance to be the man beside them. Things were just as Lung Ruoxue had guessed. After hearing Zhou Kun's words, Meng Bao sized up Ji Yun and the others. Among these people, Ji Yun was the one she was most dissatisfied with. This was because Ji Yun looked too weak. She did not like men who could be blown away by the wind. More importantly, Ji Yun was timid and often cried. This was something she could not stand. Thus, she was the first to reject Ji Yun. Yu Chun. She didn't want to touch her brother's friend. Otherwise, her brother would be angry at her. Because Big Brother always said, Big Brother's friends should not be bullied. And she was very obedient to her big brother. As for the other two, no matter how she looked at them, she didn't think they were her type. He was too fair and his skin was too soft. She didn't feel the touch of such a man, so she directly crossed him out, which was also rejected by her. All in all, she still preferred men like Zhou Kun, who were tall, strong, and looked very durable. After all, when choosing a man, she had to choose one that she could use for a long time. Otherwise, if he chose someone who looked good but was useless, wouldn't he be the one regretting it? Therefore, a man's face had never been in her consideration when choosing a man. Therefore, she was not satisfied with all of them. In other words, Zhou Kun's plot had failed, and Ji Yun and the others were safe. After sensing the change in Meng Bao's gaze, Ji Yun and the others felt strangely at ease. Although Meng Bao's eyes were full of provocation and dissatisfaction, they didn't know why, but they still felt at ease. Later on, when Lung Ruoxue talked to them about this matter, they suddenly realized why Zhou Kun was sizing them up with a scheming gaze, and why Meng Bao was dissatisfied with them. It turned out that Zhou Kun was trying to drag them into this. This fact made the few of them extremely furious, and it was also destined that Zhou Kun's days in the special space would not be peaceful. However, at this moment, Zhou Kun was still unaware that his unlucky days were yet to come. At this time, he was still trying to persuade Meng Bao to go with them. It was only after he made countless unfair conditions and satisfied Meng Bao that Meng Bao finally agreed to go with Lung Ruoxue and the others. However, before she left, she warned Zhou Kun to stay away from Lung Ruoxue. Otherwise, he would bear the consequences. Upon hearing those words, Zhou Kun had no choice but to calm down under Meng Bao's tyrannical abuse of power. However, he knew that his heart was with Lung Ruoxue. After they set off, Lung Ruoxue and the others walked in front while Meng Bao carried Zhou Kun in his arms like a princess. In her words, her little Kun was exhausted from the past few days, so he could not walk anymore. She could only carry him. In fact, even if Meng Bao did not explain himself, Lung Ruoxue and the others would not mind that Zhou Kun was being hugged by a woman. On the contrary, they were more than happy to watch a good show. Chapter 1883. Potential Rival in Love 1. Just like that, Zhou Kun's face was flushed, and Meng Bao did not know if it was from embarrassment or anger. Moreover, he did not say a word along the way and always looked drowsy. Seeing this, Meng Bao's heart ached even more. AI. Little Kunkin had been exhausted recently, because he had been so enthusiastic and brave these few nights that she almost couldn't handle it. Fortunately, she was physically stronger, so she had the strength to carry little Kun with her during the day. Although she was tired, she felt happy when she thought of little Kunkin's fiery enthusiasm. All her fatigue was swept away. Along the way, Lung Ruoxue and the others hurried along during the day and looked for a place to set up camp at night. As for Zhou Kuren and Meng Bao, they would be so eager to get into their tents at night. After dinner, Leng Ruoxue and the rest gathered around the fire and chatted as usual. A familiar sound rang in their ears. Seeing this, Leng Ruoxue raised her hand and cast a few spells, creating a soundproof barrier to block the sound from the outside. These two people were too good at disturbing people. Ji Yun, how much did you drug Zhou Kuan? Yu Chen glanced at Ji Yun and said in a speechless manner. However, what made him feel even more incredulous was that the medicine took effect at intervals. Basically, they were fine during the day, but when it was late at night, the two of them would lose control of themselves, especially Zhou Kuan. Not much, about a month's worth. Ji Yun said disapprovingly after some thought. Hearing his words, Yu Chen couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat on his forehead. A month's amount is not much? Then how much would be considered a lot? However, Zhou Kuan really deserved to die. He actually dared to have designs on them. If they did not teach him a lesson, he would definitely rebel. As if he thought of something, Yu Chen said. Ji Yun, there are still more than 10 days left before we leave this place. By then we will definitely have a big fight with others. If Zhou Kuan continues to be so weak, he will drag us down. In my opinion, why don't you give him the antidote for the time being? If he is still alive after we leave this place, I will support you even if you give him 100 years of the antidote, let alone a month. Yes, I know what I'm doing. I won't let him drag us down. Ji Yun promised. In fact, he wanted Zhou Kuan to enjoy himself for a few more days before he would secretly feed him the antidote. That's good. Hearing Ji Yun's words, Yu Chen was relieved. The next day, when Leng Ruoxue and the others walked out of the tent, they were surprised to find that Zhou Kuan was already waiting for them. Moreover, his complexion was obviously much better, at least not as pale as before. However, he and Meng Bao had been pulling and tugging at each other. He wondered what they were doing. What are you guys doing? Leng Ruoxue and the rest asked curiously. During this period of time, these two people had added a lot of after-meal topics for them, so they had to show some concern. Little Kunkin's body is too weak, but he won't let me carry him. Upon seeing Leng Ruoxue and the others, Meng Bao immediately complained. That aggrieved look, coupled with her tall and strong body, really made people feel strange no matter how they looked at it. Little Kuan, how could you reject Bao Bao's good intentions? Ji Yun suppressed his laughter as he feigned being unable to bear it. I have my hands and feet. Can't I walk on my own? Why are you letting someone else carry you? Zhou Kuan roared angrily. As soon as he thought of that, the flames in his heart would burst out. It's true that you have arms and legs, but unfortunately, your body has been too weak recently. If it weren't for Leopard holding you, I'm afraid you would have fallen behind. So you have to thank her for not abandoning you. You must know how to be grateful, and you will get your retribution for being ungrateful. Ji Yun said disapprovingly. Hearing his words, Meng Bao's expression became even more aggrieved. Little Kunkin isn't an ungrateful person. He's just too shy. Meng Bao spoke up for Zhou Kuan. He's shy? Ha! In this world, anyone can be shy, but he isn't. When Ji Yun heard this, he couldn't help but laugh as if he had just heard a great joke. You don't understand him. In fact, little Kunkin is a very introverted child. Meng Bao said. Ji Yun looked at Meng Bao and then glanced at Zhou Kuan. He felt nauseated. However, Zhou Kuan vomited it out before he did. Little Kuan, what's wrong? Why did you vomit? Upon seeing that, Meng Bao turned pale with fright and hurriedly rushed to Zhou Kun's side. He hugged him tightly in his arms and patted his back to comfort him. Cough, cough. Zhou Kuan coughed twice, and his face turned pale again. Damn it. This fellow's hand was so strong, he would be slapped by her for no reason. I'm fine, she said. Zhou Kuan said after he calmed down. You said you were fine, but you vomited. Meng Bao growled nervously. I said I'm fine, so I'm fine. Zhou Kuan said impatiently, but he couldn't help but think that it would be great if Leng Ruoxue was the one who cared so much about him. He had to admit that he was still daydreaming about something that would never come true. Bao, don't worry. This is a normal reaction. I should congratulate you for becoming a mother soon. At this moment, Ji Yun interjected. When Leng Ruoxue and the others heard Ji Yun's words, Black lines appeared on their foreheads. Does this fellow mean that Zhou Kuan is pregnant? However, Zhou Kuan obviously had not reacted yet. And this idea was really too different. The few of them muttered to themselves at the same time. However, in order to cooperate with Ji Yun, they all looked at Zhou Kuan with burning eyes, which made Zhou Kuan even more annoyed. Going to be a mother? Ji Yun's words made Meng Bao a little dumbfounded. This good news came too suddenly, and she was not mentally prepared for it. But your little Kuan is too weak, so you have to take good care of him. After all, he's now a dual-bodied person. Ji Yun warned. This time, he was very straightforward, and Zhou Kuan and Meng Bao both heard him clearly. Damn it. What did you just say? I dare you to say that again. Upon hearing Ji Yun's words, Zhou Kuan was a little angry from embarrassment. Fuck. He was a man. That coward from the Ji family actually said that he was pregnant. Wasn't he deliberately trying to anger him to death? After all, it was a woman's business to have a baby, and he had no right to do so. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. Congratulations, little Kuan. You're pregnant. Ji Yun did not care about Zhou Kuan's fierce look at all, and congratulated him with a smile. Fuck. I'm a man. Zhou Kuan gritted his teeth and said fiercely. I didn't say you're a woman. Ji Yun's smile was very annoying. That Ji Yun, how could little Kuan have a child? Meng Bao also asked in confusion. She had originally thought that Ji Yun was talking about her. Only now did he know that the person Ji Yun said was going to give birth to a child was actually little Kuan. This was simply impossible. Even if she didn't have any common sense, she knew that a woman gave birth to a baby, and men didn't have that function. Chapter 1884. Potential rival in love too, hee. I'm just guessing based on his reaction. However, we're all cultivators, so we should be very clear about the abnormalities in our bodies. So let him check it himself, won't we know if he has it or not? Ji Yun suggested. I'm going to make you give up on this idea right now. Ji Yun's suggestion was exactly what Zhou Kuan wanted. After he said that fiercely, he used his divine consciousness to explore Ji Yun's body and carefully examined it. Ow. How could this be possible? After checking Zhou Kuan's body, his face turned paler and paler. Upon seeing that, Meng Bao was frightened and shouted loudly, Little Kunkin, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me. However, Zhou Kuan only looked into his body and did not give Meng Bao any response. It could also be said that he was completely in a dazed state, because he discovered that there seemed to be a life aura in his dantian that did not belong to him, but was closely connected to him. This fact made his heart sink involuntarily. Oh, how could this be? He even wanted to die. Little Kunkin. Unwilling to give up, Meng Bao continued to call out and tug Zhou Kuan's sleeve with all his might. Unfortunately, Zhou Kuan still did not respond, and was immersed in his own world. Bao, calm down. He should be fine. He just can't accept that he's going to have a baby. Ji Yun advised. Oh, is he really fine? Meng Bao was still worried. He'll definitely be fine. Don't you worry. Ji Yun gave Meng Bao a consoling look and promised. That's good. Meng Bao was relieved for the time being. Besides, she had to digest this good news properly. She was actually going to be a mother, and the child would be born from the belly of her child's father. This was really amazing. She was so happy that she was too lazy to investigate why Zhou Kuan could give birth to a child. After all, this was the divine realm, and anything was possible. All of a sudden, Zhou Kuan burst into tears. Then he ran back to his tent without looking back. Little Kunkin. Meng Bao cried out in worry. You should go and comfort him. I'm guessing he won't be able to accept this fact for a while. Ji Yun hurriedly urged. Oh, go comfort him immediately. After saying that, Meng Bao, who was at a loss, also ran away. After the two of them left, Lung Ruoxue and the rest turned their gazes towards Ji Yun. They looked at him steadily without saying a word. Ji Yun's hair stood on end from their gazes. Cold sweat involuntarily trickled down his forehead. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead with lingering fear. He couldn't take it anymore and said, Don't look at me like that, I'm scared. These wolf-like gazes seemed to want to eat him up. Wu, how could they bully him like this? Ji Yin felt wronged. What did you do? After a long while, Lung Ruoxua asked with a faint smile. She did not believe that Zhou Kuan, a grown man, would be pregnant. I didn't do anything. Ji Yin blinked his eyes and said innocently. Leniency to those who confess, severity to those who resist. It's your choice. Lung Ruoxua didn't waste any words with him and directly gave him two choices. Can I choose the third option? Ji Yin said with a fawning smile. There's no third option. Lung Ruoxia's beautiful eyes were half squinted as she looked at Ji Yin with an unfriendly expression. Woo-woo. You're such bullies. What exactly do you want me to do? Ji Yin couldn't bear the enormous pressure, and said with a sad face. We just want to know what's going on with Zhou Kun's pregnancy. Are you the one behind it? Yu Chen sighed softly and said somewhat helplessly. If it was really Ji Yin who was playing tricks on Zhou Kun, he would not be worried. He was only afraid that Zhou Kun was really pregnant. If that happened, it would be difficult to handle. Although he had not heard of any man who could give birth in the divine realm, just because they did not know did not mean that it did not exist in this world. If I say that he really has it, would you believe me? Ji Yin cautiously asked. What do you think? Yu Chen asked. All right. I admit that I did something to him. Ji Yin confessed honestly. How did you do it? Lung Ruoxua was a little curious. Ji Yin had actually made Zhou Kun mistakenly think that there were signs of life in her body. This was not an easy thing to do. I once obtained a pill by chance. That pill has the effect of simulating the characteristics of life, so I gave it to him without him knowing. Ji Yin said smugly. So that's how it is. It's a good thing that he's not really pregnant. Otherwise, would be in big trouble. Yu Chen heaved a sigh of relief after hearing this. How can our trouble be big? Ji Yin didn't understand. If he really has it, can we immediately set off? Not only that, but Meng Bao might even need us to help take care of him. Don't you think we're in big trouble? I don't want to take care of that pregnant woman. Yu Chen gritted his teeth and emphasized the word pregnant. Ha. Seeing Yu Chen's reaction, Lung Ruoxua and the rest could not help but laugh. At this time, Zhou Kun, who had already hidden in the tent, was in an extremely low mood. He had it. He actually had a child, Wu. He didn't become the first eunuch in the divine realm, but was about to become the first man to give birth to a child in the divine realm. This fact was also something that he couldn't accept. Zhou Kun lowered his head, and tears streamed down his face. All of a sudden, he was hugged by a strong arm. The owner of the arm looked at him with a distressed expression and said, Little Kunkin, I know it's hard for you to accept this, but there's no point in being depressed now. Let's just get over it. Be good. We're going to have a baby, hee. This is really good news. After Meng Bao comforted Zhou Kun a little, he was so happy that he forgot himself again. However, Zhou Kun became even angrier when he heard her words. Good news, my ass. If you're pregnant, it might be good news, but I'm the one pregnant now. How is that good news? If outsiders were to find out, how would I have the face to continue living in the divine realm in the future? Zhou Kun was furious, and he had no way to vent the anger in his heart. He felt a sharp pain in his chest. But things have already come to this. What else can we do? Meng Bao said helplessly. She knew that little Kunkin was in a bad mood, so she could only coax him patiently. Zhou Kun was a little speechless. Damn it. If he knew what to do, wouldn't that be good? Little Kun, let's get married immediately after we leave the elite conference. Otherwise, wouldn't our child be an illegitimate child? Seeing that Zhou Kun seemed to have calmed down a little, Meng Bao made a suggestion. Married? There are still 10 days left until the elite gathering. Anything can happen in these 10 days. So let's think about how to save our lives here first. As for marriage, we can talk about it later. Zhou Kun said perfunctorily. Although he had the ugly woman's child, he still did not want to marry her. Chapter 1885. Potential Rival in Love 3. Little Kunkin. Don't worry. With me around, I'll do everything I can to ensure your and our child's safety. Meng Bao promised. I'm afraid you won't be able to handle it. Zhou Kun understood that when the day of the decisive battle came, It would be good enough if Meng Bao could protect himself. He would not be able to take care of Zhou Kuan. Little Kuan, you have to believe me. I'll definitely place your and our child's safety as my top priority. Seeing that Zhou Kuan did not seem to believe her words, Meng Bao assured him again. Then he acted cute and coquettishly, finally making Zhou Kuan believe him. In fact, Zhou Kuan was just annoyed by her. Hence, he had no choice but to pretend to believe her. In the next few days, Zhou Kuan remained sickly and could not eat anything at all. Upon seeing that, Meng Bao, who was trying to please him, almost turned white from worry. With no other choice, Meng Bao could only seek help from Leng Ruoxue. In the tent, Meng Bao looked at Leng Ruoxue uneasily and mumbled, "Miss Leng, I need your help. If you want me to persuade Zhou Kuan to eat on your behalf, forget it," Leng Ruoxue said, cutting off Meng Bao's words. "Why? He doesn't want to eat, but I know he'll listen to you. Please help me persuade him." Meng Bao pleaded. "Miss Meng, Zhou Kuan is just suffering from morning sickness. If he really can't eat, you don't have to force him. He's already a god anyway, so he won't starve to death even if he doesn't eat. As for the child in his stomach, you don't have to worry about it. The child of a god isn't that weak." In fact, in her opinion, Meng Bao was even more abnormal than Zhou Kuan. After all, Zhou Kuan was just depressed and could not accept the fact that he was pregnant. However, what about Meng Bao? However, she had been busy for the past few days. "Miss Meng, we have to leave this place tomorrow." Leng Ruoxue reminded him again. Due to Zhou Kuan's pregnancy, they had been delayed for a few more days, and they could not afford to delay any longer. "Miss Leng, there's no need to leave in a hurry. We might be teleported to a place with many people." Knowing that Leng Ruoxue was anxious to compete, Meng Bao revealed a secret. Hearing this, Leng Ruoxue's pupils contracted. She squinted her beautiful eyes and said indifferently, "Are you saying that we will be transported to other places?" "I'm just saying that it's possible, because the situation is different every year. If the battle in that year is relatively intense, we won't be teleported away. However, if there are too many contestants like us who haven't fought a single battle, we might be gathered together." Meng Bao explained. "There's such a situation?" Leng Ruoxue had never heard her godfather mention this before, so she was really not sure. However, such a situation has only happened once in history, and it has been a long time, so I guess that many families have forgotten about it. Meng Bao said, "Since you knew, why didn't you tell us earlier? You made us run around like headless flies." Leng Ruoxue complained. I can't think of it at the moment. Moreover, this situation isn't absolute. I just feel that it's possible for us to do so, and it may not be what I think." Meng Bao observed Leng Ruoxue's expression and asked carefully, "So you're willing to take a gamble for Zhou Kuan's sake?" Leng Ruoxue asked, clearly aware that Meng Bao would not have remembered this if it were not for the fact that Zhou Kuan was pregnant and could not travel in a hurry. Of course, it was also possible that she wouldn't tell him even if she knew. We haven't even fought before. I believe that the God Lord's estate will have other arrangements." Meng Bao said with certainty. "If it's not like what you said, and we weren't teleported together, what should we do?" Leng Ruoxue asked indifferently. "Then there's no loss for you to stay here. There's no one else here, and we don't have to fight to the death, nor will we get hurt. When the time comes, we'll naturally be able to leave." Meng Bao said with a smile. Right now, she really needed Leng Ruoxue and the others by her side. Therefore, she must not let them leave. After all, if she were to encounter an opponent, it would be a little difficult for her to protect Zhou Kuan alone. If everyone thinks the same way as you, then what are we doing here? Are you traveling? This woman has really fallen into Zhou Kuan's love net, Leng Ruoxue said, feeling a little speechless. Look at how she pampers Zhou Kuan. She's almost worshipping him. Hehe. Peace is the most important thing. It's boring to fight and kill, isn't it? Meng Bao said with a sneer. When we first met, it seemed like you already wanted to fight us. Leng Ruoxue reminded him with a half-smile. It was a misunderstanding. That was a misunderstanding. We're also friends after a fight. Meng Bao chuckled. She didn't deny that she had the desire to fight, but that was different now. Little Kunkin was pregnant. If she fought with others like before and accidentally hurt little Kunkin, it would be a life and death situation. Out of blows, friendship grows. Since you've said so, we'll have to risk our lives to accompany you, Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. After hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Meng Bao's face lit up with joy. However, Lung Ruoxue's next words caused her anticipation to drop to the bottom of the valley. However, don't expect me to persuade Zhou Kuren for you, Lung Ruoxue continued. Can't you? Meng Bao still wanted to persuade Lung Ruoxue. We can't. Lung Ruoxue interrupted Meng Bao's words, and said without any room for discussion. All right then. Looking at the stubborn Lung Ruoxue, Meng Bao knew that he would not be able to convince her. She had already given him face by staying, so he should not force her to do anything. After saying that, Meng Bao turned around and left resentfully. Not long after she left, Ji Yun and the others ran in sneakily. Ruoxue, what did she say to you? By the way, shouldn't we be preparing to leave? Ji Yun asked in rapid succession. There's no rush. We'll stay here until the end of the competition, Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. Lung Ruoxue's words left Ji Yun dumbfounded. He didn't hear her wrong, did he? The person who wanted to leave the most had actually taken the initiative to stay. Seeing that Ji Yun and the others were puzzled, Lung Ruoxue repeated what Yao Bao had told her to them. After hearing it, Ji Yun and the others all fell silent. I still have to fight. Ji Yun's face was teary as he spoke with extreme reluctance. Of course we have to fight. Why else would you come here? Are you here to play? Yu Chen said, somewhat speechless. Ji Yun's words made him have the urge to beat someone up. Hee. How did you know that I came here to play? In fact, I'm just a bystander. Who asked me to be the young master of the Ji family? I had no choice but to come. Ji Yun's tone was filled with grievance. Yu Shu gritted her teeth upon hearing this. It seemed that the Ji family had really spoiled Ji Yun. Chapter 1886, Interrogation 1. As he thought of this, Yu Chen's gaze turned to Ji Wu and Ji Tao, and he communicated with them with his eyes. Is this the young master of the Ji family? Ji Wu and Ji Tao returned Yu Chen's gaze with absolute certainty. In reality, the two of them had no way of dealing with Ji Yun's temper. Even the Ji clan's ancestor had to admit defeat when facing Ji Yun, let alone them. This was because sometimes, Ji Yun was really. Seeing their expressions, Yu Chen lost his temper. Sister Ruoxue, since you've decided to stay here, then we'll stay here. Yu Chen sighed and changed the topic. After receiving Yu Chen's affirmative answer, Lung Ruoxue turned her gaze towards Ji Yun and the other two. Without waiting for Lung Ruoxue to ask, Ji Yun immediately expressed his stance in a very obsequious manner. Ruoxue, I'll be wherever you are. Is that so? Suddenly, an ice-cold voice sounded out of nowhere, causing the temperature around them to drop. When Ji Yun and the rest heard this voice, they could not help but shiver. On the other hand, Lung Ruoxue's face was filled with joy as she hurriedly left the tent. The moment she stepped out of the tent, Lung Ruoxue saw a peerless and magnificent man standing outside. In an instant, she was like a swallow returning to its nest as she threw herself into the man's embrace. The man was also hugging Lung Ruoxue tightly. When Ji Wu and the others came out and saw this scene, their eyes immediately widened in disbelief. What was this situation? Ji Yun's reaction was even more direct. He immediately roared, "Let go of Ruoxue." After he finished speaking, he wanted to rush forward and pull the two people who were tightly hugging each other away, but he was stopped by Ji Wu and Ji Tao. Why are you guys pulling me? Quickly let me go. Can't you see that little sister Ruoxue is being bullied? Ji Yun was furious. He glared at the man's arms that were wrapped around Lung Ruoxue. He wished he could burn a hole in them. It's too much of an eyesore, isn't it? It was really an eyesore. Ji Yun was going crazy. He hadn't even hugged little sister Ruoxue before. Now it was actually snatched by a guy who came out of nowhere. It was really preposterous. Young master, don't embarrass yourself. The two of them should know each other. Ji Tao couldn't help but send a mental message. Ji Yun, who was burning with jealousy, couldn't see the situation clearly, but couldn't they? Moreover, That man didn't look like someone to be trifled with. His Ji-Yin was probably no match for him. They were well aware of this, so they naturally wouldn't allow Ji-Yin to do something he shouldn't have done in his rashness. How is this possible? Ji-Yin stupidly muttered to himself. He was unwilling to believe this truth, because whether it was in terms of appearance or cultivation, that man was much stronger than him. One was the bright moon in the sky, while the other was the dust on the ground. There was simply no comparison between the two of them. However, he who had always been self-aware knew that the dust was him. Young master, calm down. Well, no, once we ask. Ji Tao consoled her. The truth was clear, so there was no need to ask. After all, they had been together with Lung Ruoxue for quite some time. Although that woman looked very friendly, there was a hint of alienation in her friendliness. However, before they could ask about the man's identity, Lung Ruoxue took the initiative to introduce him to them. He's my fiancé Yechen, Lung Ruoxue said with a faint smile. Her beautiful eyes stared unblinkingly at the devilish man in front of her. During this period of time, she really wanted to be a devilish man. Hello. I've long heard of your great name. Ji Wu and Ji Tao hurriedly replied while secretly sizing up Yechen from the corner of their eyes. When Ji Yin found out that this man was Ruoxue's fiancé, he immediately became listless from the huge blow. Oh, heavens. You don't have to provoke me like this. What an unparalleled handsome man. Ji Wu and Ji Tao secretly praised him. Although they had always admitted that they were pretty, compared to this demonic man, the difference was like heaven and earth. There was no way to compare them. In addition to his cold temperament, he had the ability to cause the surrounding temperature to drop by a lot, which was something they did not have. Previously, they had been gossiping and guessing what kind of man was qualified to be Lung Ruoxue's fiancé. After all, Lung Ruoxue was a peerless beauty in their eyes. Hence, they had already determined in their hearts that a man who was worthy of Lung Ruoxue would definitely not be an ordinary man. Today, they had finally met this man who had been known for a long time. He was indeed worthy of his reputation. The two of them, be it their appearance or temperament, were very compatible. Furthermore, when they saw the beautiful couple snuggling together, they actually felt that it was so natural, and so pleasing to the eye. At this moment, if someone wanted to destroy this beautiful scene, they would find it unbearable. Unfortunately, there were always people who didn't know what was good for them. Young Master Yi, who is this young lady? Suddenly, a gentle and beautiful voice interrupted abruptly, breaking the originally quiet atmosphere. When Ji Wu and Ji Tao saw that someone had ruined this beautiful atmosphere, they were instantly enraged. However, when they saw the face of the person who had spoken, they were both dumbfounded. Sister Min. The two of them said in unison. They didn't expect the person who ruined this beautiful atmosphere to be their eldest miss of the Ji family. What should they do now? Ji Wu and Ji Tao looked at each other, feeling helpless. When Lung Ruoxue heard Ji Min's words, she didn't even look at Ji Min. Instead, she turned her beautiful eyes towards the demon. Seeing this, the demon's expression remained calm and composed as he brought Lung Ruoxue into the tent. When Ji Min saw this scene, her lungs almost exploded from anger. Damn it! These two people actually ignored her existence like this. Since when had she ever received such treatment? Who's that woman? Ji Min was so angry that she grabbed Ji Tao's collar and pulled him in front of her. She couldn't help but ask. It's his fiancé. Ji Tao told the truth. At this time his reaction was slow, but he also knew that his haughty eldest miss had fallen for that demonic man. However, looking at the state of their relationship, it would be difficult for outsiders to intervene. At the thought of this, Ji Tao looked at Ji Yin worriedly. This pair of siblings could really be considered to be in the same boat. However, Ji Yin seemed to be in a better state as he had always been carefree since he was young. It was hard to say for Ji Min. Although Ji Min was the eldest young lady of the Ji family and one of the most dazzling leaders of their generation, and was considered an idol-level figure in their hearts, after being with Lung Ruoxue for this period of time, Ji Tao was very clear about Lung Ruoxue's character. She was not easy to get along with. If Ji Min met her, she might not be able to gain any benefits. More importantly, Lung Ruoxue was their savior, so he was 1,000 times more. They really didn't want Ji Min to have any ideas about her fiancé. If the two of them had any conflicts, they would feel very embarrassed. Chapter 1887. Interrogation 2. They should have helped Ji Min, but they would feel sorry for Lung Ruoxue if they did that. Ji Min was not in the right, but she was still a member of the Ji family, so they did not do anything to her. Ji Tao began to feel conflicted. Fiancé. Ji Min narrowed her eyes, and a thought-provoking light flashed in the depths of her beautiful eyes. She didn't expect that young Master Yi really had a fiancé. She thought that they were just perfunctory with her. What should I do now? Miss Ji, I've told you before that Commander Yi is my Miss Fiancé. Now you should believe me. At this time, another helpless voice rang out. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw two beautiful women standing not far away from them. One of them was wearing green clothes, and the other was wearing pink clothes. The one who spoke was the woman in green. These two people were Lu Tao and Sueju. Green Peach. Was that woman really your family's young miss? Ji Min asked with a slight suspicion. How can this be fake? Don't tell me we don't even recognize our own miss? Lu Tao rolled her eyes and said, somewhat speechless. When they first met Ji Min, they felt that Ji Min was a very open and generous person, and was easy to get along with. However, ever since she met Commander Yi, Ji Min seemed to have changed into a different person overnight, and became a stranger to them. Perhaps this was the real her. Since that woman is your family's young miss, why didn't you all go up and acknowledge her just now? Ji Min was still very suspicious and raised a new question. We do want to go forward, but guild leader Yi clearly wants to spend some alone time with my young miss. If we go forward, won't we attract guild leader Yi's hatred? As a human, you should know your place and not do such a disgusting thing. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. Green Peach said with a hidden meaning. These words were clearly directed at Ji Min, but Ji Min didn't intend to take Green Peach's warning seriously. After all, Green Peach's identity was obvious. She was willing to let go of her identity as the young lady of the Ji family to befriend him, which was already a great honor for her. How could she allow Green Peach to ruin her marriage? From the first time she saw Yechen, her eyes and heart had been filled with that man's figure. She could no longer tolerate anyone else's existence, so for the sake of her own happiness, she had to take a gamble. Not to mention that Lung Ruoxue only had a fiancé. Even if she already had a wife, she still wanted to snatch the only man that she liked from another woman. After she made up her mind, she saw Lung Ruoxue as her greatest love rival in this life. However, she thought of herself as a wise woman. Even if she wanted to snatch her love away, she had to pay attention to the method and strategy. She could not give others the chance to gossip. Fortunately, Lung Ruoxue was still unaware of Ji Min's thoughts. Otherwise, she would definitely mock her for wanting to be a whore, and yet wanting to have a good reputation. When will they come out? Ji Min asked as she looked at the tightly shut tent. When she said this, her expression was normal, but in fact, her heart was already in turmoil. She was jealous. He was so jealous that he was about to go crazy. Why wasn't she the woman inside? Throughout the entire journey, Yichen had never looked at her in the eye, let alone smiled at her. However, she had clearly seen Yichen smile at the woman just now, and he seemed to be very doting on her. All of this made her so jealous that she was going crazy. I don't know. Maybe tomorrow, or maybe they won't come out until they leave this place. Lu Tao said indifferently. How can I do that? Upon hearing this, Ji Min gritted her teeth in hatred. Why can't I? Leader Yi is my Miss Man. Isn't it only natural for them to be together? Lu Tao said with a faint smile. Her impression of Ji Min was getting worse and worse. Ever since Commander Yi appeared, her good impression of Ji Min had disappeared. But we're in a competition. Ji Min couldn't help but remind him. It doesn't matter. The final battle hasn't come yet. The two of them haven't seen each other for so long. It's only right for them to have a good gathering. At this moment, Yushu said with a faint smile. Hearing this, Ji Min immediately pointed the spearhead at Yu Chun and questioned him with an unhappy expression. Who are you? Is there any place for you to interrupt? She was so angry that she couldn't maintain her usual elegant demeanor, and directly exposed her true nature. Seeing her like this, Ji Wu and Ji Tao, who had never seen this side of her before, widened their eyes in shock. They looked at Ji Min in disbelief, as if their eldest miss had been replaced by someone else. On the other hand, Ji Yun was much calmer, and a trace of ridicule flashed through his clear eyes. "I'm Sister Ruoxia's brother. Since you're suspicious of their privacy, and she's not here, I naturally have to answer you on her behalf." When Yu Chen said this, he had a faint smile on his face, but his tone was very indifferent and distant. Looking at Ji Min, Yu Chen was a little disappointed with the eldest miss of the Ji family, who was rumored to be a god. Thinking back, someone in the Yu family had even suggested for Ji Min to be his young madam. Fortunately, it was rejected by the old ancestor. Now it seemed that the older the wiser. The old ancestor must have long seen that Ji Min was a person who did not mean what she said. Otherwise he would not have rejected this matter. Looking at Ji Min, Yu Chen once again thanked the old ancestor for his wise decision. Although Ji Min was very beautiful, she gave off a very strong feeling. This type of woman was usually very stubborn, and would not give up until she achieved her goal. So, when he saw her reaction to the man just now, Yu Chen started to worry about Leng Ruoxia. In his heart, he really treated Leng Ruoxia as his little sister. In addition, Leng Ruoxia did not act very domineering in front of them. Hence, Yu Chen subconsciously placed Leng Ruoxia in a position that needed protection. As for this woman who wanted to hurt Ruoxia and snatch Ruoxia's fiancé, she was naturally blacklisted by him. The way people interacted with each other was really strange. Some people might not become true friends even after knowing each other for a lifetime. However, some people only knew each other for a few minutes, and they could become life and death friends that they trusted the most. This was probably fate between people. Brother? That's not her real brother. What right do you have to represent her? Ji Min scoffed at Yi Chen's words and said disdainfully, "Sister, brother Yu is the young master of the Yu family." Suddenly, Ji Yun reminded her. Although he didn't like his sister very much, he couldn't just watch Ji Min offend Yu Chen. It wouldn't do the Ji family any good. So it's the Yu family's young master. Ji Min has been impolite. Upon hearing Ji Yun's words, Ji Min immediately reacted and resumed her usual magnanimous and appropriate way of dealing with things. She also apologized to Yu Shu. Yu Chen only smiled and did not say anything. At this moment, Ji Min's gaze turned to Ji Yun. She rushed in front of Ji Yun with unusual enthusiasm, and tightly grabbed his wrist. She sized him up and down. After confirming that Ji Yun was safe and sound, she seemed to be relieved. "Xiao Yun, it's great that you're fine. You don't know how worried I've been for you." Chapter 1888. Interrogation 3. Thank you for your concern, sister. I'm very well. The corner of Ji Yun's mouth twitched as he indifferently replied. He was extremely cold to Ji Min's enthusiasm. Ji Tao and Ji Wu were already used to this, but Yu Chen felt that the way the siblings got along was a little unusual. "Xiaoman, are you still blaming me?" "AI. It's all Big Sister's fault. If I had held you tightly when we entered this place, we wouldn't have been separated. You must have suffered a lot," Ji Min said with a pained expression, her beautiful face full of guilt. "Sister, I don't blame you." Ji Yun rolled his eyes and said in a speechless manner, "Does this sister speak without thinking? If when they entered this place, the people of each clan could be transmitted together as long as they held each other tightly, then what was the point of entering here? It would be better to compete directly outside." Little Yun. When she heard this, Ji Min thought that Ji Yun was angry. Therefore, she looked at him with an aggrieved expression. "Sister, I'm tired. I'll go back and rest first." Ji Yun was speechless at Ji Min's reaction, but he didn't want to act like a brother and sister in front of outsiders, so he went straight into his tent. "Xiao Yun." Ji Yun had already left. Ji Min watched his back as he left, but she still called out softly. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tears, but she forced them back. "Little Yun is blaming me," Ji Min muttered to herself. Seeing her like this, Ji Wu and Ji Tao didn't know what to say, because this kind of situation was common in the Ji family. Outsiders all knew that Ji Min doted on Ji Yun to the bone, but what they didn't know was that Ji Min always stuck her warm face to Ji Yun's cold ass, because Ji Yun didn't appreciate her love at all. Turning around and leaving like this was still fine, but Ji Yun was capable of doing things that made Ji Min even more embarrassed. Although they didn't know why Ji Yun would treat Ji Min like this, according to their ancestor, this was the unique way the siblings got along. As long as they didn't feel that there was anything wrong with it, it was enough. No one had the right to question it. Ever since the patriarch had said these words, the clansmen who felt that Ji Min had been treated unfairly had greatly decreased. After all, everyone was well aware that the patriarch was clearly biased towards Ji Yun. Don't you think Xiaoyun is blaming me? Seeing that no one responded to her words, Ji Min could only ask again. The young master won't blame you. You're his sister after all. Ji Tao had no choice but to comfort her. Although he admired Ji Min, in his heart, Ji Yun was still more important. No matter how useless Ji Yun appeared to be, his position as young master Ji Yun was still unbreakable. Everyone in the Ji family knew this. That's good. AI. When you have time, please explain it to me. I don't want Xiaoyun to misunderstand me, Ji Min said with a hint of resentment. Yes. Ji Wu and Ji Tao nodded their heads readily. As for whether or not they would tell him and when, that was their own business. After that, the few people who didn't feel very familiar with each other felt that they had nothing to say, and each found an excuse to go back to work. Seeing Lu Tao and Suizhu setting up the tent, Yu Chun, who had nothing to do, took the initiative to help. Young master of the Yu family, there's no need to trouble you. Will be done immediately. Seeing that Yu Chun was about to make a move, Lu Tao hurriedly stopped him. They had also heard about Yu Chun's identity from Ji Yun. You don't have to be so polite with me. I'm the big brother that little sister Ruoxue acknowledged. Yu Chun said enthusiastically. Lu Tao did not know what to do with Yu Chun, who was so familiar with her. They were used to doing everything by themselves. Therefore, they were not used to an outsider coming to help. What's more, the person who came claimed to be her young miss brother. Would her young miss be so bored as to casually acknowledge a brother? Green Peach was very suspicious of this. However, she was too lazy to expose him. After all, what were these young masters? They had to give him some face, right? In reality, Lu Tao's guess was right. It was not Lung Ruoxue who had taken the initiative to acknowledge Yu Chun as her brother, but Yu Shu had called him that out of familiarity. After a long time, Lung Ruoxue had tacitly agreed. Yu Chun was not an annoying fellow anyway, and he was very tactful. In that case, it was no loss for her to have an older brother who had taken the initiative to come to her door. By the way, how did you find us? Is it a coincidence, or? Then, while helping Lu Tao and Suizhu set up their tents, Yu Shu asked curiously. Hee. Of course I know where you are. Otherwise, how would we be able to find it? However, we've been searching for you for days. Hearing Yu Chen's question, Suizhu replied without much scheming. Seeing Qui's straightforward answer, Lu Tao could not help but glare at her. However, Lu Tao also felt that Yu Chen's question was not a secret, so she simply explained it. We met two people on the way and they told us. However, they only told us your approximate location. So in order to find you, we have been searching for a long time. Lu Tao's words were similar to Suizhu's. After Yu Chen heard it, he suspected that they had met the same person, Lu Sun, whom Lung Ruoxue had mentioned that Zhou Kuan had offended. And this Lu Sun told everyone his whereabouts. What was he trying to do? Could it be that Lu Sun thought that Lung Ruoxue and the rest would remain in their original positions? Wasn't Lu Sun's IQ too low? Actually, someone told me that I would meet little sister Ruoxue and the others. Furthermore, according to my guess, the person who told us about little sister Ruoxue and the others' whereabouts should be the same person. Following that, Yu Chen also truthfully said, Arg. What was going on? What does he want to do? Yu Chen's words caused Lu Tao and Suizhu to turn pale with fright. However, at the same time, they were also quite glad. After all, they had already found their miss. With them around, let's see who dares to bully their young miss. For revenge. Yuchen said softly. Then, he told the two maidservants what he had heard from Lung Ruoxue and the others. Lu Tao and Suizhu were dumbfounded and gasped in admiration. After a long time, Lu Tao and Suizhu kept sighing, and their beautiful faces were filled with depression. Don't worry, little sister Ruoxue and the others will be fine. When he saw that the two maidservants had become listless after hearing his words, he thought that they were worried about Lung Ruoxue. Hence, he consoled them immediately. We're not worried, we're just regretful. Suizhu could not help but ask. This time, it was Yushu's turn to be stunned. Then he asked in a silly manner. What are you regretting? It's a pity that we weren't there. We didn't even get to participate in such a fun event. Sob. I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Suizhu said somewhat exaggeratedly, her beautiful eyes still faintly rippling with tears. Chapter 1889. Interrogation 4. Yushu started to sweat. He deeply felt that he was old, and there was a big generation gap between him and these little girls. Otherwise, why couldn't he understand what this little girl was thinking? If Suizhu had said that she was worried about Lung Ruoxue, or that she was afraid that Lung Ruoxue would be injured, he would have thought that it was normal. However, she had treated it as a game, and even regretted that she could not participate. Was this how a normal person thought? What's there to regret? Maybe that guy will come to our miss for revenge. At that time, we'll take care of him. Unlike Suizhu, although she was also depressed at the beginning, she thought further. She even thought that the other party might come to take revenge on her young lady, so she decided to make early preparations. Soon after, Lu Tao took out all of her bottles from her storage ring and said with a wicked smile, "If that guy really dares to come, I'll let him have a good taste of the power of these medicines." Seeing this, Yuchen was extremely surprised. What are these medicines? In view of the Green Peach's high praise for his medicine, Yuchen was very curious. Poison. Green Peach's pink lips parted slightly as she spat out two words. Yushu's forehead was full of black lines. She thought to herself, a woman's heart is indeed the most vicious. Lu Sun hadn't arrived yet, but the other party had already prepared the poison. However, with so many bottles of poison, would Lu Sun be able to handle it? Hee. Most of them are poison, but some aren't. Green Peach explained kindly, when she saw that Yuhan seemed to be frightened. This is itching powder, she continued. This bottle was stinky powder. This place is filled with things that can make the whole body rot. She introduced them to Yuchen one by one with a bad heart. After Yuchen heard this, more black lines appeared on his forehead, and he broke out in cold sweat. He thought in his heart, ruthless. How ruthless. Compared to those so-called poisons, these medicines were probably even better. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but shiver. Sob. Women these days were really too scary, especially the more harmless they looked. When they were fierce, they were often unexpected. However, thinking of the effects of the powder that Lu Tao had introduced to him, Yuchen's heart began to itch like a cat's scratch. Although the powder sounded scary, it was good to save lives in critical moments. Thinking of this, he thickened his skin and began to please her. Can you give me some of these herbs? I want to keep it for self-defense. Yuchen said, a little embarrassed. No. I only have these. If you really want them, go to my family's young miss. Seeing Yuchen staring at her medicine, Green Peach hurriedly put away the medicine and looked at him with a vigilant look. However, she still kindly provided Yuchen with the source of these medicines. Little sister Ruoxue, do you have a lot? Yuchen asked in surprise. Yes. Lu Tao nodded and thought, of course her young miss has a lot, because that medicine was refined by her young miss. Then I'll go and get it from sister Ruoxue. Yuchen said hurriedly. He was about to look for Lung Ruoxue, but he was stopped by Lu Tao. Wait, you can't go now. Otherwise, guild leader Yu will hate you. Lu Tao could not help but remind him. Why? Yuchen was puzzled. He didn't do anything to Lung Ruoxue, so why would that fellow hate him? Stupid. Don't be a third wheel now, otherwise leader Yu will go crazy. Suizhu could not help but say. After saying this, she deeply felt that she was really too kind. Alright then. Thanks for the reminder, I'm going back to rest. You guys should rest early too. After Yu Chen finished speaking, he turned around and left. Seeing this, Lu Tao and Suizhu also entered the tent that had just been set up. For a moment, only Ji Min, Ji Wu, and Ji Tao were left in the large area. Ji Wu and Ji Tao wanted to find an excuse to return to the tent, but Ji Min refused to let them leave. She insisted on chatting with them. Although she said it was a chat, she was only asking them about Lung Ruoxia's situation. In reality, they had not spent a lot of time with Lung Ruoxia, so their understanding of her was naturally not deep enough. Hence, after their conversation, they could not provide much useful information to Ji Min. In fact, Ji Min was not even clear about Lung Ruoxia's strength. This fact made Ji Min extremely depressed and dejected. In the end, she didn't even know when Ji Wu and Ji Tao had left. She sat by the fire alone until dawn. On the other side, after the demon pulled Lung Ruoxia into the tent, he had Lung Ruoxia bring him back to the Bengal. In the purple bamboo house, the two of them shared their lovesickness with each other. Following that, Lung Ruoxia began to interrogate the woman about her identity. Demon, tell me the truth. Who is that woman? Lung Ruoxia pretended to be angry and put on a straight face, pretending to be displeased. This fellow was really too good at attracting peach blossoms. However, this peach blossom seemed to be smarter, and was different from the brainless women in the past. This kind of woman was relatively difficult to deal with. She's just a passerby. Let's not talk about her anymore. Let's change the topic. The demon suggested. No. Explain her problem first, or else you're not allowed to change the topic. It was rare for Lung Ruoxia to be so willful, and she did not leave any room for discussion. But she really has nothing to talk about. In comparison, I'm more interested in knowing who the guy who said that he'll be there wherever you are is. The evildoer also started to calculate. That guy's name is Ji Yin. We met here. Lung Ruoxia replied simply. How could she have forgotten that the evildoer was even more jealous than her? Wu. I miscalculated. And then, the demon squinted his eyes and asked indifferently. Lung Ruoxia could hear a trace of displeasure in his tone. There's nothing else. Lung Ruoxia couldn't help but shrink her neck. She regretted starting this topic. Great, she had brought it upon herself. You really don't have any more? The evildoer was obviously not satisfied with Lung Ruoxia's answer. He gently bit her snow-white arm, leaving 2 rows of teeth marks on her smooth and tender skin before he let go in satisfaction. It hurts. Lung Ruoxia looked at him pitifully, the tears in her beautiful eyes threatening to fall. Then she purposely said, You're such a bully. You didn't explain clearly about that strange woman, and even bit me. I said she's just a passerby. There's nothing to explain. The demon started to tease Lung Ruoxia. To be honest, he quite liked it when Schwer was jealous over such a small matter. At least, this showed that Schwer cared about him. Even so, you still have to explain clearly how you got to know her. Humph. How dare you bring a strange woman with you? I think you're really. Lung Ruoxia's face was flushed red as she gritted her teeth. She didn't finish her sentence, but she knew that the evildoer knew what she wanted to say. At this moment, she was playing the role of a willful, unruly, and jealous girlfriend very well. And her performance also pleased the demon. The demon hugged Lung Ruoxia tightly and kissed her pouted pink lips without any hesitation. His chest was shaking from his smile. He was obviously very happy. Don't laugh. Lung Ruoxia cupped her devilishly beautiful face and warned him seriously. Good. No smile. I won't laugh. The demon coaxed, but then, he laughed even louder. Hee hee. Schwer's current appearance was really too cute. He really couldn't get enough of looking at her. However, he was afraid that he would go too far in playing with fire, so he patiently explained Ji Min's existence to Lung Ruoxia. He did not want Schwer to really take him seriously, and that would be bad. Chapter 1890. You're too unsympathetic, one. Schwer, I didn't keep that woman by my side. When I met her, she was already with Lu Tao and the others. Moreover, at that time, they were being besieged, and your maidservant was being bullied. So, I saved her in passing. The demon explained simply. Not only that, that woman even claimed that she was a friend of your two maidservants. Since she is their friend and has nothing to do with me, it wouldn't be good for me to drive her away, right? Actually, he really wanted to drive her away, but that woman acted normal in front of him and wasn't very enthusiastic about him, so he couldn't be too narcissistic, could he? However, after seeing Shui, it seemed that the woman couldn't hold back anymore. That woman clearly has feelings for you, Lung Ruoxue reminded, her beautiful face filled with displeasure. So what? In my eyes, she's just a passerby. Besides, if I say that she has never pestered me or expressed her love for me, would you believe me? The demon raised his eyebrows and asked. I do. That woman looks smart and not easy to deal with. Lung Ruoxue nodded her head. This was how a smart woman should behave. Those who drooled at the sight of a man were infatuated. When a smart woman pursued the man she liked, she would usually be calm and unmoved. Ha! No matter how smart she is, can she compare to my Shui? The demon smiled and tried to please him. Humph. There's no point in trying to please me. No matter what, this woman was brought back by you. Lung Ruoxue pretended to be displeased and pouted her pink lips. Seeing this, the demon's heart heated up and he could not help but kiss her again. Lung Ruoxue was breathless from the demon's kiss. After a long time, she finally found a chance to breathe. She looked at the demon with slight displeasure and said, Don't even think about getting away with it. This guy was really getting worse. Shui, I didn't provoke that woman. It was Lu Tao and Suizhu who provoked her. So don't blame it on me. It's very unfair to me. His devilish black eyes stared unblinkingly at Lung Ruoxue. His eyes were filled with grievances. You're the one who attracted the peach blossoms, and you're blaming others? Lung Ruoxue was a little speechless. Even though she knew that the evildoer was somewhat innocent in this matter. If it wasn't for his devastatingly beautiful appearance, why would those peach blossoms who had been mesmerized by his beauty come to her door one after another? Wasn't it enough to have a brain-dead girl who was infatuated with him? Now that a smart and scheming woman had come to her door, she didn't have to do anything in the long run. She just had to help the demon drive away these rotten peach flowers. You're pretty good at attracting peach blossoms. Hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, the evildoer could not help but whisper. As long as he was not by Shui's side, she would be entangled by some man. Sob. It seemed like he would have to stay by Shui's side and protect her from now on, he decided in his heart. What did you just say? Lung Ruoxue squinted her beautiful eyes as she spoke in an unfriendly tone. Damn evildoer, they were talking about his matters now, but he actually dragged her into it. Was this considered as him trying to drag her down with him? It's nothing. It was nothing. Shui, it's getting late, can we rest? The evildoer said hurriedly. Right now he didn't dare to mention anything about Ji Yun. Otherwise, Shui would definitely get angry with him. However, it didn't matter. There were still many days ahead. He would deal with that kid when he had the chance. I haven't had a good night's sleep in these days. The demon added. After he finished speaking, he hugged Shui and lay down on the bed. After Lung Ruoxue fell asleep, the demon summoned Green Vessel. What's the matter? Qingju looked at the demon warily. Every time this guy came to find him alone, it was definitely not something good. However, he could not reject him. Sob. He was the most pitiful weapon spirit in the world. What do you think? Didn't I tell you to help me look after Shui? Is this how you look at her? The demon squinted his dazzling starry eyes and said with slight displeasure. Those few guys are insignificant. They can't pose any threat to you. When Qingju heard this, he quickly explained. He knew that the evil man was planning to settle the score after this. This guy did not dare to ask his sister, but he did not have any concerns about him. He knew that if he dared to hide any information about any man, this evil man would not let him off. As long as he thought of the other party's terrifying torture methods, he could not help but shiver. Following that, Qingju explained the 8 generations of ancestors of the men in detail. Of course, he also mentioned Ji Yin. After all, among the men, this fellow was the only one who had impure thoughts towards his sister. Moreover, he was a black-hearted fellow who liked to pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger. If it were not for the fact that he did not dare to say some things, he would definitely tell this demon that Ji Yun and he were very similar in some ways. As for Zhou Kuan, who had always wanted to challenge the demon, he only mentioned him briefly. Who asked that guy to not enter their eyes? Only these. The demon said in dissatisfaction after hearing this. Yes. Qingju quickly nodded and thought to himself, are these not enough? He had even told her about Zhou Kun's pregnancy. Since you're done, you may leave. Seeing that Qingju had nothing else to explain, the demon directly ordered him to leave. Qingju's face turned red in anger. Damn it, this was killing the donkey when the grinding was done. It was wrong. How could he call himself a donkey? Anyway, this guy kicked him away after using him. He was so pitiful. Qingju reproached himself for a while, but he still had to leave with tears in his eyes. After Qingju left, the demon lay on the bed and recalled Qingju's words. Other than Ji Yun, there was actually someone else who wanted to challenge him. This person most likely knew that he had been a little bored recently, so he had deliberately sent himself to his door. In that case, if he didn't make good use of it, wouldn't he be wasting the other party's good intentions? After making up his mind, he decided to start with Zhou Kuan first. After all, Zhou Kuan was the least important person among the few of them. As for Ji Yun, he would slowly drive him out of Shui Er's sight. At this time, Zhou Kuan still didn't know that he had been targeted. It wasn't until the next day when Zhou Kuan left the tent that he discovered that there seemed to be a few strangers in the camp. He recognized one of the strangers. Ji Min. What are you doing here? After Zhou Kuan saw Ji Min, he asked her in a bad mood. Who was the last person he wanted to see in such a situation? Naturally, it was Ji Min. After all, whether it was the grievances between the Ji and Zhou families, or his previous feelings for Ji Min, it was enough to make him a big joke in Ji Min's eyes. Being seen by Ji Min in his current state was definitely a humiliation to him. You can be here, why can't I? Ji Min sneered after seeing Zhou Kuan. You. Zhou Kuan was at a loss for words. Yeah. Why can't Ji Min be here? How could he say this? Could he say that he regarded Ji Min as an enemy and naturally didn't want the enemy to see him now? However, it wasn't like the other members of the Ji family didn't know about his current situation. Zhou Kuan was in a dilemma. Chapter 1891. You're too unsympathetic too. Do I need a reason if I can't? I hate you, do you understand? Seeing that Zhou Kuan was being bullied, Meng Bao couldn't hold it in any longer. Zhou Kuan, on the other hand, was touched to see that someone was speaking up for him. Do I have a grudge against you? Ji Min glanced at the strong woman who had spoken, and asked indifferently. No grudges. Meng Bao answered readily. Then what right do you have to hate me? Ji Min said, somewhat unconvinced. First, she didn't kill this woman's entire family, and second, she didn't steal this woman's man. What right did this woman have to hate her? That's weird. Do you need a reason to hate someone? I just don't like the look of you, so what? Bite me. Meng Bao said shamelessly, but he couldn't help but snort in his heart. She hated all the women who dared to bully her little Kuan. You really are an uncultured savage woman. I'm too lazy to talk nonsense with you. Ji Min was so angry that her words trembled, and her beautiful face turned red with anger. I don't want to talk nonsense with you. You seem to be quite well-mannered, but you're too annoying. Meng Bao said with a look of disdain. However, he was thinking that Leng Ruoxue was more likable compared to this woman. She just didn't know if Leng Ruoxue would be moved to tears after knowing her thoughts. However, at this moment, Leng Ruoxue was preparing to come out of the tent. After hearing her words, she was already laughing in her heart. It seemed that the daughters of those families had to be dealt with by women like Meng Bao, who seemed crude but was actually meticulous. After all, Meng Bao did not look like a shrewd and meticulous woman. Therefore, no one would pick on her even if her words were rough. At the thought of this, Leng Ruoxue pulled the evildoer aside the tent's curtain and walked out. As soon as they stepped out of the tent, they heard a cry of joy. Brother Yi, you're out. Without a doubt, Ji Min was the one who was pleasantly surprised. As for Leng Ruoxue, she had automatically ignored her. When Leng Ruoxue heard this voice, she lifted her beautiful eyes and looked at the evildoer teasingly. Then the two of them walked towards them, hand in hand. Brother Yi. Just as Ji Min was about to step forward, she seemed to have accidentally seen Lung Ruoxue, who was beside the evildoer. She stopped in her tracks awkwardly. At this time, Meng Bao's loud voice rang out again. Lung, who is this pretty boy? Your new love. Why hadn't he seen her before? However, this guy looks much stronger than that Ji Yun, but he's not my cup of tea. Meng Bao sized up the demon and asked nonchalantly like a machine gun. Lung Ruoxue's forehead was filled with black lines after hearing her series of questions, while the demon's face was completely black. As for Ji Yun, his face was alternating between green and white. He's my fiancé Yechen. Lung Ruoxue sighed softly and said helplessly. Her hand remained calm as she appeased the evildoer. She knew Meng Bao's temper very well. He would say whatever he wanted, and would never think about whether others would get angry after hearing what she said. In that guy's heart, there was no such thing as an unintentional speaker, but a meaningful listener. Otherwise, Meng Bao would not have called her the one with the surname Lung all the time. She couldn't do anything to Meng Bao, but she didn't have to worry about being schemed against when interacting with a straightforward person like him. This was also the main reason why she had always accommodated him. I've long heard of your great name. Hearing this, Meng Bao cupped his hands in a manly manner, and sized up the demon again with surprise. In her eyes, this guy was too weak. Could such a weak man give a woman happiness? She was very suspicious. At the thought of this, Meng Bao could not help but pull Lung Ruoxue to the side and asked in a low voice, Lung, this man's body looks so thin and weak. Can he satisfy you? She had no intention of probing into Lung Ruoxue's privacy. She was purely curious. After all, from her perspective, how could Lung Ruoxue have a blissful sex life when she was with such a man? When Lung Ruoxue heard these words, her cheeks started to heat up and her forehead was covered in cold sweat. She could not help but pray in her heart that these words could not be heard by the evildoer. Otherwise, that fellow would definitely kill her. After all, this was related to a man's dignity. Looking at Lung Ruoxue's troubled expression, Meng Bao completely misunderstood her. Following that, she said with a look of sympathy, "Ai, as a woman, I can understand the pain in your heart. Why don't you change to another man? There are plenty of good men in the world. This time, you should find a strong man. As for this kind of embroidered pillow with an empty appearance, you must not think about it again. After all, a woman's sexual happiness is the most important." Meng Bao's words were very sincere and earnest. The reason why she told Lung Ruoxue these things was mainly because Lung Ruoxue had kept her promise and did not snatch Zhou Kun from her. Otherwise, she would not have spoken so much. However, if Lung Ruoxue knew that this was the reason why Meng Bao was concerned about her sexual happiness, she would probably vomit blood from depression. What Meng Bao thought he had said carefully was heard by the demon. He narrowed his eyes and thought to himself, "Can't I satisfy Shuer? How would you know if you don't try?" At this moment, he had crossed out this intrepid and strong-looking girl, and put her on his blacklist. He had to make Shuer stay away from this girl in the future. Otherwise, his innocent and cute Shuer would be led astray. Seeing the woman holding Shuer's arm and chattering nonstop, the evildoer immediately released a chill. Instantly, the temperature dropped a lot. As for Ji Min, who had been staying beside the evildoer and trying to attract his attention, she was completely ignored. Not far away. Upon seeing this, Yu Chen whispered to Ji Yun, "Quickly pull your sister back. Don't let her do such a thankless thing. That man is not to be trifled with, and he's not someone she can dream of." As the saying goes, the onlooker sees more clearly. He could clearly see that the devilish man was getting impatient. If he were to lose his temper, he would naturally not vent it on his beloved woman. So who would be the first to bear the brunt? It was naturally self-evident. "You think I can control her? Ever since we were young, we've always wanted anything that caught her eye." Ji Yun spoke the truth. He had long seen through his sister's thoughts, but he had no intention of interfering. More importantly, he couldn't interfere in this matter. Moreover, Ji Min was different from him. If Ji Min had her eyes on something, she would definitely get it. As for him, as long as he could see Lung Ruoxue often and cook for her, He was already very satisfied. AI. She will regret it if she offends this man. Yu Chun sighed helplessly. He couldn't understand why some people in this world liked to covet other people's things so much. Or was it really that good to snatch it? Whether she regrets it or not is her own choice. She can't blame anyone else. Ji Yun said coldly. Chapter 1892. You're too unsympathetic 3. You really think so? Yu Chen's eyes widened as he asked in disbelief. He didn't expect that the carefree-looking Ji Yun could actually be so cold-blooded. If he remembered correctly, Ji Min should be his biological sister, right? What else can I do? Even if something happens to her, I won't take revenge for her. There are some people she can't afford to offend, but she still insists on flying like a moth to the flame. If there are any consequences, she can only bear it herself. Our family will not stand up for her. Ji Yun laughed coldly. It was time for this arrogant and haughty sister of hers to be taught a lesson. She didn't want her to always think that she was the most outstanding woman in the world. Little did she know that her thoughts were nothing more than a big joke in Ji Yun's heart. Big brother Yu, as the young master of the Yu family, you can't really be so soft-hearted, right? Or do you have any thoughts about me? If that's the case, then I'll make the decision to betroth her to you. Ji Yun said half-jokingly, half-seriously. In fact, the more he thought about it, the more he felt that his idea was good. He didn't want his sister to cause trouble for the Ji family. I'm not interested in your sister. When Yu Chen heard this, he hurriedly replied and was so frightened that he quickly wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. He wasn't interested in Ji Min at all. If he had known about Ji Min before because of her reputation, then after seeing her in person, the little bit of curiosity he had about her disappeared. This woman was no different from any other woman. She was just as infatuated with him. In fact, she even had a bad habit of being self-righteous. It should be known that as a member of the family, this bad habit was the most unacceptable. Otherwise, it would bring a fatal disaster upon herself. And now, in his eyes, Ji Min was the typical representative of someone who had caused trouble, but was still unaware of it. Not only that, but he also felt that the Ji family's education of Ji Min over the years was a complete failure, because Ji Min simply didn't understand that she shouldn't have dreamed of something she was delusional about. It was no easy feat to dig her own grave. In his eyes, Ji Min was not even as cute as Meng Bao. At least, that woman was very real. She knew what he wanted and what was suitable for him. She was obviously Zhou Kun's nemesis. At the thought of these two people, he could not help but think of how good Meng Bao was to Zhou Kun. He could not help but chuckle softly. Seeing Yu Chen suddenly start to giggle, Ji Yunshu looked at him in confusion. Brother Yu, what's wrong with you? Brother Yu was really abnormal like this, he was so scared. Ha. I was just thinking about the time when Meng Bao and Zhou Kun were together. They were very loving. Yushu said with a smirk. The little resentment he had for Zhou Kun had long disappeared with the arrival of Meng Bao, because he knew very well that it would be a disaster for Zhou Kun to be tied to Meng Bao for the rest of his life. Unfortunately, Zhou Kun could not refuse at all. Unfortunately, Meng Bao is going to build a harem. Ji Yun said, gloating over Zhou Kun's misfortune. He could also tell that Meng Bao seemed to be Zhou Kun's nemesis. He who knew what Meng Bao was thinking, actually sympathized with Zhou Kun a little. This was because what Meng Bao was about to do now happened to be what Zhou Kun had done in the past. He wondered if this was considered retribution. It seemed that people really shouldn't do bad things. Well, she seems to like men like Zhou Kun. Do you think we should recommend a few to her? Yu Chen suddenly winked and said, that's a good idea. I think the one named Lu Sun is quite suitable for her. Besides, Lu Sun is much taller and stronger than Zhou Kun. Ji Yun suggested. Yu Chen, who had seen Lu Sun before, also nodded his head repeatedly. That guy was indeed Meng Bao's type. Just like that, the two of them started to conspire with tacit understanding. Lu Sun, who was far away, did not expect that he would be set up again. However, he kept sneezing. However, this was also his retribution. Who asked him to scheme against Ji Yun and the others first? People. He had to have the awareness of reaping what he sowed, otherwise he would only bring fire upon himself. Moreover, compared to him wanting Ji Yun and the others to die, it seemed that Ji Yun's idea was kind. Although Meng Bao's appearance was a little apologetic to the audience, he was a very meticulous and considerate woman. Ji Yun could tell from how she usually treated Zhou Kuan. Therefore, she felt that her thoughts were very kind. On this side, Ji Yun and Yu Chen were discussing how to scheme against Lu Senator. On the other side, Meng Bao was pulling Leng Ruoxue and talking nonstop. Suddenly he cried out. Ah! Suddenly, a sound rang out. The few of them raised their heads in unison and looked in the direction of the sound. They happened to see Ji Min's pale face, her legs going soft, and falling in the direction of the evildoer. The people present were all smart monkeys, so it was naturally not difficult to see Ji Min's purpose. However, no one had expected that Ji Min would actually come up with such a clumsy method. However, no one could see that the demonic man would know how to show tenderness to women. Even Ji Tao and Ji Wu looked at Ji Min with disapproval. They didn't think that the demonic man would be so easy to scheme against. Fuck. This vixen, I've long seen that she's not a good person. To actually think of your family's weak man. Leng, you can't let her go, or I'll look down on you. After witnessing this scene, Meng Bao immediately swore. His eyes were wide open, as if Ji Min was trying to take advantage of her man. In fact, she was feeling indignant for Leng Ruoxue. Don't worry. She'll suffer the consequences of her own actions. Leng Ruoxue laughed lightly as she understood. If a demon could be so easily schemed against, he would not be the man she liked. Are you sure? In fact, I don't think men are good at dealing with this kind of thing. So, Meng Bao said like an emperor who was not in a hurry. However, before she could finish her sentence, the demonic man's figure flashed like the wind. Then Ji Min, who was falling toward him, fell directly to the ground in an extremely indecent posture. She was the eldest young lady of the Ji family. She was famous for her nobility and elegance. But now, she had fallen to the ground like a dog eating shit. Her skirt was lifted up to her waist, revealing her long, white legs and her beautiful butt. Art. It hurts. With a cry of pain, Ji Min raised her head slightly. At this time, everyone could clearly see that Ji Min had fallen more miserably than they had imagined. At this time, Ji Min's beautiful clothes that touched the ground had been torn, revealing half of her snow-white jade peaks. Her high nose bridge was also broken by the impact because she directly touched the ground. Her originally beautiful diamond-shaped pink lips were swollen like two sausages and covered with mud. The skin on her face was also damaged in many places. Blood flowed directly from the wound and quickly soaked her entire face. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Ji Min was a ghost now. After Ji Min fell down, she endured the pain on her face and elbow and got up from the ground. But at this moment, she couldn't help but feel hatred in her heart. Damn it, no one came to help her when she fell. This was preposterous. At this time, she knew how to blame others for not coming to help her. However, why didn't she think about it? When she fell, she didn't expect anyone to help her at all. Her goal was completely on the evildoer. Unfortunately, he didn't care about her life or death. This was a fact that she did not want to touch. At the thought of this, Ji Min's resentful eyes unconsciously drifted to the evildoer and she said with an aggrieved face, "Brother Yi," who knew that just as she opened her mouth to speak, her teeth fell to the ground with a clatter. Instantly, everyone was once again stunned. Ji Min was also completely dumbfounded. What was going on? She had never heard of someone who fell and knocked out all his teeth. How was Ji Min going to face others in the future? One had to know that things like teeth could not grow back just by eating healing medicinal pills. And if a woman, especially a beautiful woman with a well-known reputation, did not have teeth, how terrifying would that be? After Ji Min's teeth were knocked out, her lips, apart from the two sausages, were immediately deflated. She suddenly became a lot uglier. Seeing this, Ji Tao and Ji Wu both lowered their heads in unison, not daring to look at Ji Min at all. It was not difficult for them to imagine how angry Ji Min was at this moment. However, they had overestimated Ji Min's ability to endure. At this moment, she had completely fallen into a dazed state, so how could she still care about losing her temper? Seeing Ji Min's miserable state, Meng Bao laughed heartlessly. Her gloating laughter immediately attracted everyone's attention. Receiving everyone's attention, Meng Bao was embarrassed, which was rare. Why are you all looking at me? Meng Bao whispered in embarrassment. At this time, shouldn't they be looking at the miserable state of the vixen who tried to seduce other people's men? Why was he looking at her instead? This made her a little at a loss. You're too unsympathetic, Yushu said with a faint smile. In fact, he also wanted to laugh unscrupulously like Meng Bao, but unfortunately, his status did not allow him to be so casual. Chapter 1893, Two-Pronged Approach 1. Sympathy? Why should I have sympathy? Even if I'm full of sympathy, I can't just give it to a vixen who wants to seduce someone else's man. Hee. It's already good enough that I didn't hit her when she's down. And she still wants me to pity her? In my opinion, she asked for it. She deserved it. Meng Bao was slightly stunned. Then he snorted disdainfully. Her words were not polite at all. When they heard this, Ji Yun and the other two felt their faces burning. They did not dare to defend Ji Min, while Yu Chen's smile became even more profound. At this time, Ji Min also came back to her senses and heard Meng Bao's words. Suddenly, Ji Min disregarded her image and roared in anger. What an ugly monster! What did it say? I dare you to say that again. I'm sorry, I don't have the guts. Meng Bao said in an infuriating manner. Only men have balls. How could she? Ji Min was so angry that her whole body was trembling. In addition, she had almost lost all her teeth, so she couldn't speak clearly. However, her current image was completely different from her reputation. Moreover, the people present believed that after this incident, Ji Min's reputation would not be as good as before. As for how bad it would be, they did not dare to guess, but it would definitely not be good. Sister, you're already in this state, so it's better for you to speak less. Ji Yun couldn't bear to watch any longer, and couldn't help but ask, Is he still my little brother? I'm being bullied, and you're just standing by. After hearing Ji Yun's words, Ji Min, who had nowhere to vent her anger, immediately directed the spearhead at Ji Yun. In any case, she was certain that her younger brother would not disrespect her in front of others. You were bullied? Ji Yun narrowed his eyes, his face filled with confusion as he repeated himself. Then he said, Who bullied you? Ji Min was so angry that she almost vomited blood at Ji Yun's act of playing dumb. Damn it, Ji Yun clearly didn't want to interfere in her business. This won't do. She was Ji Yun's older sister and the eldest daughter of the Ji family. Therefore, she had to get back at him today. She didn't want to touch Lung Ruoxua for the time being, so as not to leave a bad impression on Yi Chen. She couldn't afford to offend Yu Chen either. Therefore, after thinking about it, Ji Min felt that Zhou Kuan and that ugly woman should be her punching bags and allow her to vent her anger. Otherwise, where would she put her face as the eldest daughter of the Ji family? At the thought of this, Ji Min stretched out her hand and pointed at Zhou Kuan and Meng Bao, making them her targets. Buy them, Ji Min said with a slightly aggrieved tone, her beautiful eyes still misty. Zhou Kuan, who had been targeted even without doing anything, was immediately depressed. Damn it. He didn't even say anything, okay? How could he be wrongly accused? Under the watchful eyes of the public, how could this damned woman have the nerve to accuse her? Zhou Kuan couldn't figure it out. Was that person really the noble eldest daughter of the Ji family? Now, no matter how he looked at Ji Min, she was not pleasing to the eye. I didn't say anything, okay? Zhou Kuan reminded him with a slightly aggrieved expression. This was the first time he had watched a show so obediently in his life. However, he was still shot in the head even though he did that. Was there still justice in this world? At this moment, Zhou Kuan finally experienced the feeling of being wronged. Although she didn't say anything, her expression can't be hidden from me. Ji Min roared in anger. What was her image? She had completely forgotten about it in her extreme anger. This works too? Miss Ji, I realize that I've only truly gotten to know you today. Thank you for opening my eyes. Zhou Kuan cupped his fists and said with a look of admiration on his face. How could he not admire her? Ji Min's ability to lie through her teeth had already reached the peak. What do you mean by that? Upon hearing Zhou Kun's words, Ji Min became even more furious. However, Zhou Kun laughed without saying a word. Hee. What else could it mean? I'm saying that you're a hypocrite. Meng Bao interjected. In fact, it was not a big deal for the heiresses of those families to be inconsistent. Inside, Ji Min was so angry that her eyes were bloodshot and her face was ferocious. Coupled with her shriveled sausage mouth, her current appearance was really as terrifying as it could get. A ghost. It's really too ugly. Upon seeing this, Meng Bao cried out exaggeratedly and hid behind Lung Ruoxue to seek protection. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue smiled helplessly and said to Ji Min, Miss Ji, if you want to continue throwing a tantrum, no one will stop you. However, I think you'd better take care of your injuries first. You look quite scary now. Besides, everything we do here can be seen by the people outside. I'm afraid that many people will be surprised by your current appearance. So, you have to take care of yourself. After hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Ji Min instantly calmed down. Then she took out a healing pill and ate it. In an instant, the injuries on her face and arms were healed, but her teeth could not grow back. That was why her lips were sunken. When she thought of this fact, the flame burning in Ji Min's chest grew stronger and stronger, until it became a sea of fire. However, she had already calmed down and knew that her performance just now could very likely destroy her many years of business in one day. Therefore, she did not dare to act rashly. However, what should she do with her teeth? Without teeth, not only would there be gaps in her speech, but it was also unsightly. Therefore, Ji Min's hair was almost white. In fact, if she was still a high-level deity, she would not be afraid of any injuries to her body. This was because when a high-level deity advanced to become a deity, she would have a chance to repair her bodhi's defects. However, she had already passed through that stage. Therefore, she naturally did not have that opportunity. Her teeth were also part of the body that could not be regrown. Therefore, if there was no good way to repair her teeth, then her life would really be ruined. One might ask, which family would want a head lady who had lost all her teeth? How did this happen? Ji Min couldn't understand. She had clearly calculated it well, but there was a deviation. It was fine that Yi Chen did not catch her tenderly, but how did she fall to the ground? And it fell so badly? How was she going to face others in the future? Now everyone in the immortal realm probably knows about this matter. Ji Min only needed to think about it to feel terrified. Moreover, she had lost her composure just now. Now the perfect image that she had maintained for so many years was gone forever. She was filled with regret. She had always been calm, but when she saw Yi Chen and Lung Ruoxue standing together, she could not control the jealousy in her heart. Otherwise, with her cautious nature, she would not have done something so abnormal. Yes, she had blamed her behavior for being abnormal. This was definitely not her intention, Ji Min thought. At the same time, she had also viewed Lung Ruoxue as her #1 enemy. However, this enemy was rather cunning, and she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to defeat her with just a few tricks. Hence, Ji Min's attitude towards Lung Ruoxue had become even more cautious. Chapter 1894, Two-Pronged Approach 2. I'm sorry. I lost my composure just now. Please forgive me. After some consideration, Ji Min changed her previous attitude and became humble and polite. Meng Bao was speechless at the speed of her change in attitude. Meng Bao gently poked Lung Ruoxue's arm and whispered to her in a voice that everyone could hear. Wow! This woman can change her face. They were still glaring at us just now, but in the blink of an eye, they're all over again. It's really magical. Isn't face changing a compulsory course for all the daughters of noble families? Don't tell me you haven't learned it? Lung Ruoxue asked indifferently. I really haven't learned it. Meng Bao deliberately laughed in embarrassment, which was rare to see on his face. Then you should learn it. Don't say anything, you'll offend people. Lung Ruoxue reminded him indifferently. If they offended some despicable people, they would not even know how they died. Why do you want to learn that? It's tiring to change faces. I'm not interested. Meng Bao said disapprovingly. This is called when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Lung Ruoxue sighed helplessly. Then it'll be different. Meng Bao said after thinking for a while. You're already different enough. Lung Ruoxue rolled her eyes in her heart. I think so too. Meng Bao boasted shamelessly. At this moment, she was no longer embarrassed. Just like that, the two of them whispered one after another, completely ignoring Ji Min. The others also ignored Ji Min. For a time, Ji Min stood in place like a fool, and the anger in her heart multiplied. Damn it! She had already lowered her voice and tried to fix the conflict, but no one gave her a reaction. This made her feel very embarrassed. Thinking of this, Ji Min suddenly said, Are you guys not willing to forgive me? It was all my fault just now. I wasn't calm enough. I'm sorry. After saying that, she looked at Meng Bao guiltily. After all, she was mainly targeting Meng Bao and Zhou Kun just now. Hearing Ji Min's words, Meng Bao's eyes instantly widened and he looked at her in horror. Oh my god! This woman was really terrifying. She was actually so flexible. She still remembered her mother's words that this kind of woman was the scariest. Therefore, at this moment, Meng Bao made up his mind to stay far away from this woman in the future, in case he didn't even know that he had been set up by her. As for Ji Min's attitude towards him just now, she didn't argue with this woman on account of how terrifying she was. The main thing was that she was afraid that she couldn't set Ji Min up. After all, conspiracies and schemes were always open. She knew nothing about it. Lung Ruoxue smiled as she watched Ji Min transform from a vicious wolf into a little white flower. She felt speechless. With this woman's acting skills, it would be a pity if she didn't become an actress. However, this woman still had some brains. It was not bad to have such an opponent. Otherwise, wouldn't life be boring? As she thought of this, Lung Ruoxue's attitude towards Ji Min became more amiable. She smiled at Ji Min and said, Don't worry, Missy Ji. We don't blame you at all. We were also shocked by what happened just now, so we haven't come back to our senses yet. Besides, we all sympathize with you, so we don't mind your attitude. Don't worry. Lung Ruoxue's words confused everyone present. Although Ji Min had only targeted Meng Bao and Zhou Kun, based on their understanding of Lung Ruoxue, she should not have taken the initiative to interfere in this matter. Although they could all see that Ji Min wanted to hit on that devilish man, she didn't succeed, did she? Hence, they could not guess Lung Ruoxue's motive for being so concerned about her love rival. Meng Bao's reaction was even more direct. She stretched out a hand and placed it on Lung Ruoxue's forehead. Then she muttered to herself, You don't have a fever. How could it be? Meng Bao could not figure it out. At the very least, from the time she had spent with Lung Ruoxue, she clearly knew that this woman was not an easy person to get along with. Even though she did not use her brain when she spoke or did things, her instincts were extremely sharp. Hence, she believed that she understood Lung Ruoxue more or less. She was extremely puzzled by Lung Ruoxue's actions of consoling that vixen. After all, that damned woman was the man who had taken a fancy to Lung Ruoxue. Of course I don't have a fever. Lung Ruoxue was speechless at Meng Bao's performance. She was just showing off her acting skills. Did these people have to react like this? Even Ji Yun was looking at her with a face full of fear, as if she had been replaced. This fact made her feel rather helpless. However, it was a good thing that the demon understood her. Lung Ruoxue gave the evildoer a praising look, because she was very clear that the reason why Ji Min had fallen so miserably earlier was because of this fellow's manipulation. However, she was not a kind-hearted person, so she naturally would not pity Ji Min. How could she not pay the price for coveting her man? At this moment, the evildoer had walked to Lung Ruoxue's side and saved her from Leopard Meng's demonic grasp. At the same time, he gave Leopard Meng a sharp look. He must be tired of living to be hugging his woman. Meng Bao, who had sensed the meaning of the devilish look, was so frightened by it that her heart trembled. Woo! This man's aura is really too powerful and too terrifying. With just a glance, her little heart began to tremble. Of course, this was not because she was moved, but because she was scared. After giving Meng Bao a warning, the demon hugged Lung Ruoxue and found a corner to sit down. At this moment, Lu Tao and Cui Zhu also served the food they had prepared. He didn't expect it to be so shocking so early in the morning. As the two of them ate, their beautiful eyes sized up Lung Ruoxue, the demon, and Ji Min. Just now, their hearts were in their throats, and their impression of Ji Min had plummeted. Now they couldn't be bothered with her. After breakfast, Lung Ruoxue and the demon went back into the tent. Seeing this, the flame of jealousy in Ji Min's heart burned wildly again. What are they trying to do by entering the tent in broad daylight? Ji Min's tone was a little questioning, but everyone present only glanced at her indifferently and was prepared to ignore her. They were fiancé and fiancée. What could outsiders do about what they wanted to do in the tent? Everyone, including Ji Tao and Ji Wu, thought the same, so no one responded to her words. Ji Tao, I'm asking you a question. Seeing that no one was paying attention, Ji Min felt embarrassed and could only call out names. Art. What's wrong? Ji Tao, who was called out, played dumb. Although he had always been quite protective of Ji Min, this time, he didn't know how to protect her. Did you not hear what I said? Ji Min's face was red as she said unhappily. Chapter 1895. Two-pronged approach 3. What did he say? Ji Tao was determined to play dumb to the end. I say, what are they trying to do by entering the tent in broad daylight? Ji Min repeated. Oh, I don't know. Ji Tao blinked his eyes and said with an innocent face. However, he couldn't help but secretly complain in his heart. Did he look like he was easy to bully? Why did Ji Min always make him the first target? This made him very depressed. What about you guys? What do you guys think? When Ji Min saw that she couldn't get anything out of Ji Tao, she couldn't help but feel a little angry, so she simply turned the topic to everyone present. May I know what identity and position you're in to question us, Miss Ji? Yu Chun, who had originally planned to remain silent, opened his mouth. Yup. Who do you think you are? Do we have to answer just because you asked? Meng Bao was even more direct and did not give Ji Min any face. I was just a little curious and wanted to discuss it with you. Ji Min's face was red as she suppressed the anger in her heart and said with some embarrassment. Curious? Hee. You just need to pull a man into the tent and you'll know what they're going to do, right? Meng Bao said with a wretched expression. He even winked at Ji Min ambiguously, making her feel both embarrassed and angry. How could you be so? Ji Min stammered again. In fact, she wanted to say something so obscene, but she deliberately did not finish the sentence to give everyone some space to think. Is he so perverted and obscene? This is called the truth, unlike some people who are obviously dirty in their hearts but pretend to be noble and generous. Who are you pretending for? Meng Bao pointed at the mulberry and scolded the locust, his face full of disdain. Ji Min was so angry that she couldn't say anything. In the face of such a vulgar woman like Meng Bao, her previous means were completely useless. This made her feel like she was playing the zither against a cow. On the other hand, Meng Bao did not care about Ji Min's reaction and attitude at all. He walked straight to Zhou Kun's side and hugged him in his arms. Go. Little Kunkin, let's go into the tent and have some alone time with each other. Don't be with a female beast in heat, or else I'm afraid you'll lose your innocence. Upon hearing Meng Bao's words, Zhou Kun rolled his eyes continuously and thought to himself, aren't you the female beast in heat? However, he didn't dare to say this out loud. Otherwise, this tigress would not let him go. In a situation where he couldn't defeat his opponent in martial arts, he could only compromise and let the tigress do whatever she wanted. He was really too pitiful. Zhou Kun, who was secretly upset, was carried into the tent by Meng Bao under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Yu Chun and the others were already used to it, but Ji Min widened her eyes as if she had seen a monster, and said with a look of disbelief. Unfortunately, there was no one to clear her doubts. After Lung Ruoxue and the others returned to the tent, Lu Tao and the rest did not stay any longer. They did not even greet Ji Min, and directly entered the tent. Ji Min looked at the gradually decreasing number of people, and widened her eyes in disbelief. Just as Ji Yun was about to return to his tent to be alone, he was stopped by Ji Min Xiaoyan. I have something to discuss with you. Ji Min hurriedly said. When she saw the obvious impatience on Ji Yun's face, Ji Min went crazy. When had she become so unpopular? In the past, even if Ji Yun didn't like her, he wouldn't show it on his face. But now, the way Ji Yun looked at her was as if she was a pile of shit. This was something she couldn't accept. I have nothing to say to you, Ji Yun said indifferently. He didn't even look at Ji Min as he walked around her and prepared to return to his tent. Upon seeing this, Ji Min thickened her skin and followed him in. Then, she looked at Ji Yun with a serious expression. This is very important. It concerns our future. Oh, since that's the case, then tell me, Ji Yun said with a smile that was not a smile. He wanted to hear what Ji Min intended to tell him. You like that Miss Lung a lot, don't you? Ji Min went straight to the point. So what if I like him? So what if you don't like it? Ji Yun didn't answer directly, but Ji Min took his reaction as a silent admission. After all, she thought she understood her brother very well. Moreover, the affectionate gaze that Ji Yun used to look at Lung Ruoxue didn't escape her eyes. If you like her, you should take the initiative to fight for her. Otherwise, she will belong to someone else, Ji Min said in a somewhat resentful tone. Her impression of Ji Yun had always been that he was willful and reckless. Therefore, Ji Yun's current reaction made her very uncomfortable. She already has a fiancé. Ji Yun reminded with a faint smile. So what? As long as you like her, you should snatch her away, shouldn't you? You're the young master of the Ji family. Don't tell me you're not worthy of her? Ji Min tempted. She couldn't help but think that if Ji Yun was willing to cooperate with her, and the two of them attacked them at the same time, she believed that it wouldn't take long for them to get what they wanted. Unfortunately, would things really turn out as she thought? I'll snatch Ruoxue over, and then that evil man will be yours, right? Ji Yun said in understanding. In his heart, he despised Ji Min's whimsical thoughts. What a blind fool. She was completely blinded by beauty. Could it be that she didn't see that whether it was Lung Ruoxue or that demonic man, they were not people who could be manipulated by others? Although he did have some thoughts about Ruoxue, he had never thought of forcing her. However, this sister's thoughts could very likely bring disaster to the Ji family. Hence he had to be on guard. Isn't this a happy ending? Having been seen through by Ji Yun, Ji Min no longer hid anything and directly admitted it. It's a win-win situation, but do you think it's feasible? Ji Yun wasn't optimistic about Ji Min's thoughts. Of course, this is my decision after much consideration. As long as we join forces, I don't believe that they can escape from our hands, Ji Min said confidently. Sister, it's good to be confident, but I think you should find a way to repair your teeth first. Otherwise, with your current appearance, I'm afraid no man can get you easily, Ji Yun kindly reminded. I have my own plans for this. Ji Min's face immediately sank when she heard Ji Yun mention her teeth. She spoke in an unpleasant tone. You just have to find a way to keep that woman busy, she said. Leave Brother Yi to me. All right. Ji Yun nodded. He wanted to see what this self-righteous sister of his would do. Xiaonan, as long as you cooperate with me, we'll definitely get what we want, Ji Min worriedly warned. No problem. Just tell me what you want to do. I'll find a way to cooperate with you. Ji Yun agreed, but in his heart, he wanted to watch a good show. After all, he didn't think that his sister, Ji Min, would have a chance to succeed. Then, I wish us a happy cooperation, Ji Min said with satisfaction. At this moment, her entire body and mind were filled with excitement. She simply didn't think about why her younger brother, who loved to oppose her the most, would agree so readily. However, even if she thought about it, she would probably think that this was the charm of love. After Ji Min got her wish, she left Ji Yun's tent without looking back. Not long after she left, Yu Chun came again. Brother Yu, did you make an appointment with my sister? The two of them actually had such a tacit understanding, and came to find me one after another. Ji Yun laughed as he teased. Don't talk nonsense. I saw that she was looking for you, so I came to take a look, Yu Chun explained. Then he turned to Ji Yun and said, Ji Yun, although we haven't known each other for a long time, I've always treated you as my younger brother and Ruoxue as my younger sister. So, I don't want you to ruin the hard-won friendship between us because of a single mistake. Do you understand? Yu Chen's words weren't without reason. After Ji Min looked for Ji Yun, he had already guessed some things. However, he couldn't say it out loud. After all, he might have been overthinking it. However, he was older than Ji Yun, so it was fine to give him a reminder. There was nothing wrong with this. He could just take it as a rainy day plan. Who asked one of the siblings to like little sister Wuxia, and the other to be interested in her fiancé? Ai, what an ill-fated relationship. Don't worry, brother Yu. I know what I'm doing. I won't do anything rash. Ji Yun nodded. In his heart, he was very grateful to Yu Chun. After all, Yu Shu was willing to say these words to him. It was enough to show that Yu Chun did not treat him as an outsider, and was sincere to him. Otherwise he would not care about his life or death. That's good. That sister of yours, sigh. Yu Chun sighed at the mention of Ji Min. That woman really made him speechless. She won't turn back until she's badly injured. Ji Yun understood. In fact, if a bloody head could make Ji Min turn back, that would still be good. He was afraid that Ji Min would be stubborn, and wouldn't give up until she achieved her goal. If that happened, it would definitely be a great disaster for the Ji family. When he heard Ji Yun's words, Yu Chun nodded in agreement and secretly decided to keep an eye on Ji Min within his capabilities, so that she would not cause trouble for sister Wuxia. For the next few days, Ji Min kept a very low profile. She did not even look at evildoer in the eye. When she saw the two of them, she would only greet Lung Wuxia as if evildoer was air and did not exist. Such a Ji Min made Lung Wuxia feel that she was a stranger. Looking at Ji Min, who was trying her best to get close to her and please her every day, Lung Wuxia couldn't help but feel a sense of wariness. Although she didn't know what Ji Min was up to, it was always better to be safe than sorry. At the same time, the demon took the initiative to look for Zhou Kuan. Chapter 1896. The Call of the Door, 1. The reason why the demon looked for Zhou Kuan was entirely because of Zhou Kun's previous challenge to him. However, after Zhou Kuan saw the demon, he was not happy at all. He trembled and looked at the demon with a vigilant look. He asked in a trembling voice, What are you doing? At this moment, he had long forgotten the challenge he had raised to the monster. Didn't you challenge me? If I lose to you, I'll have to leave Shui. I don't think we have anything important to do right now, so why don't we fight now? The demon said indifferently. No one could tell his emotions from his expression. Upon hearing that, Zhou Kuan trembled even more violently. He was only a god-tier master. How would he dare to fight with the God King? Moreover, the demonic man's aura seemed to be even stronger than Yu Chun and Meng Bao's. If he really fought with them, wouldn't that be courting death? At this moment, he was a little regretful. Why didn't he ask her fiancé's strength clearly before he wanted to challenge him? Great, now it's too late to stop. Ai. Beauty is harmful. And looking at this man's posture, if she didn't fight with him, it seemed that he wouldn't let it go. What was he supposed to do? Zhou Kuan felt extremely conflicted. With Meng Bao around, he no longer had much hope that he could be together with Lung Wuxia. After all, Meng Bao had leashed him. Furthermore, she had been following him closely all day, causing him to not even dare to take a second look at Lung Wuxia. Otherwise, if he was discovered by Leopard Meng, he would suffer tonight. Seeing Zhou Kun's dilemma, the demon urged him indifferently. Come quickly. After the battle, Shui's ownership will be even clearer. When the evildoer said that, he deliberately emphasized the word belonging. Upon hearing that, Zhou Kun's heart trembled for no reason. He could tell that this man was not to be trifled with, and it seemed that he could not afford to offend him. Don't waste time, I still have to accompany Shui after this fight. The demon couldn't help but feel a little impatient when he saw that Zhou Kuan still had no reaction. This man is really not a man. Why didn't he hesitate when he challenged me back then? Now that he had really come to accept the challenge, he was actually hesitating. This was preposterous. Upon seeing Zhou Kun's expression, the demon was even more determined to beat Zhou Kuan up in one go, lest he had any ideas about Shui. In fact, when he first heard about this matter, he had intended to make Zhou Kuan suffer a fate worse than death. He actually dared to have designs on his woman. Wasn't he courting death? However, Seeing that he had now become a certain woman's exclusive property, he changed his mind and decided to let Zhou Kun live well, and for a long time. As for Zhou Kun's enemies, he did not mind having a talk with them on Zhou Kun's behalf if there was a chance. Zhou Kun wanted to refuse, but he couldn't bring himself to say it. He could only look at the devilish man in front of him while trembling. Oh, he's so useless. But could he be blamed for this? The pressure this man gave him was like a mountain, and he couldn't bear it. At this moment, Meng Bao, who had been eavesdropping outside, rushed in. "I'll fight little Kunkin's challenge for him." Meng Bao suppressed the anger in his heart and growled in a low voice. Then he glared at Zhou Kun fiercely. "Damn it, no wonder he didn't allow me to be present just now. It turns out that he's up to this?" Although Meng Bao was angry, Zhou Kun was her subordinate. Therefore, she still had to support Zhou Kun at critical moments. Besides, Zhou Kun was not in a good condition to fight. Leopard! Leopard! Upon hearing Meng Bao's words, Zhou Kun was so touched that tears welled up in his eyes. He thought to himself, Bao Bao is still the best. However, Meng Bao did not give him a good look. "You? No. He was the one who challenged me." The demon refused. He accepted the challenge not only to respond to Zhou Kun's challenge, but more importantly, to teach Zhou Kun a good lesson. If Meng Bao took action on Zhou Kun's behalf, there would be no point in accepting the challenge. Therefore, how could he possibly accept it? Why not? Little Kunkin is my man. I can help him. Meng Bao said in dissatisfaction. Her intuition told her that this demonic man looked down on her, so he didn't want to fight her. He's a man. If news of him letting a woman stand up for him were to spread, would he still think of having a foothold in the divine realm in the future? The demon said in a light tone. But he can't fight in his current condition. Meng Bao stammered. She knew that Zhou Kun's reputation would be affected if she took action. However, Zhou Kun was pregnant with her baby. How could she allow Zhou Kun to fight with someone at this time? What if she accidentally hurt her child? Why can't I? The demon asked in confusion. His handsome face was filled with confusion. He's pregnant, so he can't use force. I hope young Master Yi can understand. Meng Bao said honestly. Oh, so it's like this. The demon nodded his head and suppressed his laughter. I can understand that he can't use force because he's pregnant, but how do I deal with the challenge he issued to me? Could it be that she had to wait for him to give birth to the child? I can't wait that long. The demon seemed to be in a difficult position, his handsome face full of conflict. Didn't I say that I'll fight in his place? Meng Bao reminded. I've also said that I refuse. The demon said, leaving no room for discussion. Then you'll have to wait for him to give birth to my child before you come to find him. Meng Bao said unhappily, but he had made up his mind to let Zhou Kun give birth one after another, in case this evil man really came to settle scores with Zhou Kun. She did not want to give this demon a chance to hurt her little Kun. All right then. Seeing this, the demon could only agree. Then he left with a face full of regret. As soon as the demon left, Zhou Kun immediately took the initiative to hug Meng Bao, feeling extremely touched. He said gratefully, Leopard, it's all thanks to you. Otherwise, I'm afraid I wouldn't even know how I died today. He still had lingering fear in his heart. You just found out? I'll let you challenge anyone you want. I'm asking you to randomly issue a challenge to others. Meng Bao pinched Zhou Kun's strong body with all his might, feeling resentful that Zhou Kun had failed to live up to his expectations. Zhou Kun was in so much pain that he kept squeaking. Woo-woo. Leopard, I know I was wrong. Stop pinching me. It hurts. Zhou Kun begged for mercy as he dodged. The wretched woman was ruthless, and she only pinched a little bit of his flesh. It was so painful that he wanted to bang his head against the wall. You'll die from the pain. Although she knew that little Kunkin had been coveting Lung Ruoxia, with her around, little Kunkin's wishful thinking would naturally fail. However, when she saw her fiancé looking for her, she could not help but feel sour inside. Leopard, I'm dying from the pain. Are you willing to do that? Zhou Kun pretended to be weak, because he knew very well that Meng Bao was his backer now. Without Meng Bao's protection, he would be in a very miserable state. Hence, No matter what his purpose was, he had to coax this woman at this moment. Chapter 1897. The Call of the Door 2. What's there to be reluctant about? It's not easy to find a two-legged toad, but there are many two-legged men. Meng Bao said disapprovingly. If it were in the past, she would never have said such words. However, ever since she had Zhou Kun by her side, her self-confidence had skyrocketed, and she seemed to have seen the blueprint of her future harem. Therefore she was a little smug. Leopard im sad. Upon hearing that, Zhou Kun looked hurt and glared at Meng Bao resentfully. He then lowered his head and looked at the ground. Why are you hurting my ass? You had so many women in the past, I should be the one feeling sad. Meng Bao roared furiously. As long as she thought of this, the anger in her heart would be uncontrollable. You said it yourself, it was in the past. Zhou Kun reminded him carefully. All right. Since it's a matter of the past, I'll be magnanimous and not haggle over it with you. However, if you dare to cheat behind my back in the future, I'll make you die an ugly death. I mean what I say. Meng Bao warned him seriously. Bao, I wouldn't dare. I only need you. Upon hearing that, Zhou Kun hurriedly tried to please her. That's more like it. By the way, you can't have any more ideas about that Lung girl. Let me tell you, her fiancé is not to be trifled with, so you'd better not provoke him. If you see him in the future, you must stay as far away from him as possible. Otherwise, just based on the letter of challenge you sent him, he has a reason to kill you. Meng Bao reminded. Then what should we do? Zhou Kun was really afraid. What else can we do? Cold mix. Although she had already decided that she would have the opportunity to plead with Lung Ruoxue, she would not tell Zhou Kun about it, in case he did it again in the future. Bao, if something happens to me because of this, you must raise our child well, and tell him not to make the mistakes his father once made. Zhou Kun thought about it, and actually said his last words. You can tell this to our child yourself, I won't say it. Meng Bao was exasperated. This guy only has this much courage? After saying that, Meng Bao turned around and left in a huff, leaving Zhou Kun, who was secretly struggling. After the demon left Zhou Kun's place, he headed straight to Lung Ruoxue's tent. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue was lying comfortably in the tent, enjoying the not-so-beautiful scenery outside. When she saw the demon walking in with a smirk on his face, she raised her brows and could not help but ask, Why? Did you teach Zhou Kun a lesson? She knew that the evil demon had gone to settle the score with Zhou Kun. However, she did not think that the evil demon would be able to achieve his goal. After all, with Meng Bao around and Zhou Kun being pregnant, there was a high chance that the matter would be foiled. No, I didn't. That guy was too useless. He couldn't even speak when he saw me. In the end, it was that leopard who came forward and said that he would fight on his behalf. However, I didn't agree. The demon explained. The person he was looking for was Zhou Kun, and the person he wanted to teach a lesson to was Zhou Kun. Therefore, he naturally would not agree to Meng Zhan fighting in place of Zhou Kun. Meng Bao loves Zhou Kun very much. I'm afraid you won't be able to fight him. Lung Ruoxue said. It doesn't matter. It's quite interesting to see that guy being so obedient to a woman. He even felt that Zhou Kun's current life would definitely be better than him teaching Zhou Kun a lesson to vent his hatred. Which man could tolerate the taboo of becoming a woman? Unfortunately, Zhou Kun could not resist at all. Ha. That's right. After seeing the way they get along, you might sympathize with Zhou Kun. Lung Ruoxue's smile was like a little fox, extremely adorable. When the demon saw this, he could not help but pull Lung Ruoxue into his arms and hug her tightly. Oh. Shui-er's body was so fragrant, so soft, and so comfortable to hold. The demon took a deep breath and thought to himself with a satisfied expression. Just then, a deafening sound came from outside the tent. Is little sister Lung here? I have something to tell you. There was no need to ask to know that the one who spoke was Ji Min, who had stopped talking for a few days. When the demon and Lung Ruoxue heard this voice, they looked at each other. Then Lung Ruoxue's mind changed, and she sent the demon into the bracelet. I'm here, come in, she replied. Younger sister Lung, why do you lock yourself in the tent all day and not go out to chat with us? I'm so bored. Jimin asked with a face full of concern. At the same time, her pair of beautiful eyes kept sizing up the surroundings of Lung Ruoxia's tent, as if she was looking for something. However, after a round of searching, she finally confirmed that Lung Ruoxia was the only one in the tent. How was that possible? She clearly saw Brother Yi come in, but why was he not there now? One must know that she had not really wanted to chat with Lung Ruoxia when she came to look for her. Her main purpose was definitely to have ulterior motives. However, her purpose for coming here was not here at all. For a moment, she did not know what to do. If she were to chat with Lung Ruoxia, she really didn't think there was anything to talk about with her. If the conversation between the two of them continued to revolve around Yi Chun, she was afraid that her efforts over the past few days would be in vain. After all, she had acted as if she did not care about Yi Chun these few days. It was also because of this that her relationship with Lung Ruoxia had progressed so quickly. Even the way they addressed each other had become more intimate. Therefore, she really did not want to waste her efforts over the past few days. I'm used to being alone. Lung Ruoxia said indifferently, but in her heart, she scoffed at Jimin's motive. Every time this woman came to find her, she would first find out if the evildoer was here. If the evildoer was here, even if he ignored her, she would still be overjoyed. If the evildoer was not here, she would be as listless as she was now, with a face full of hidden bitterness. Lung Ruoxia could not understand this at all. Jimin looked like a smart woman, but why did she become infatuated with a man? Seeing her behavior, Lung Ruoxia couldn't help but suspect that the Ji family's education of her had failed. After all, the young miss of a Zhengzhen family couldn't be so weak. Otherwise, how could she serve the family? A beauty trap was enough to capture the young lady that the family had carefully cultivated. Which family would dare to put such a clansman in an important position? Jimin shouldn't be unaware of these reasons, but Jimin still insisted on doing so. It seemed that she could only say that the charm of a demon was too great. By the way, why isn't Brother Yi accompanying you? I think I saw him come in here just now. After enduring it for a while, Jimin still couldn't help but ask. Yes, but he left before you came. Lung Ruoxia said helplessly. Brother Yi, why aren't you accompanying you? This place is so dangerous. Jimin said with a disapproving look, but she was thinking in her heart, if Brother Yi didn't accompany you, how would I have the chance to see him? How would she have the chance to perform well in front of him? Chapter 1898. The Call of the Door 3. Dangerous? We've been here for almost a month, and we've only seen a few people. How could there be danger? Lung Ruoxia said disapprovingly. However, she was thinking in her heart, where did the people who entered this place go? Could this place really be boundless? She had always been suspicious of this. Since it's a competition, it's impossible to be without danger. It looks calm now, but I can only say that the time isn't right. So Brother Yi should be by your side every day, so that he can protect you well. Jimin said very seriously. Those who didn't know would think that she cared about Lung Ruoxia a lot when they heard her words. In fact, she was doing it for her own selfish reasons. Men have things they need to do. How can they guard a woman all day? Besides, we women shouldn't rely too much on men, or we'll lose ourselves. So if you want to protect yourself, you have to become stronger. Only then can you guarantee that you won't be hurt. Lung Ruoxia said indifferently. Hehe. What you said makes sense. Jimin agreed with an embarrassed smile. Miss Ji, what's the matter? With a faint smile, Lung Ruoxia took the initiative to ask about the reason why Jimin had come to look for her. Or rather, it could be said that it was an excuse. I want to ask you when we're leaving this place. The gears in Jimin's head turned quickly. She thought for a while and said, actually, the main reason she came to look for Lung Ruoxia was to see Yechen. She said that she had something to do, because she was afraid that Lung Ruoxia would refuse to see her. Otherwise, why would she come to look for Lung Ruoxia for no reason? We don't plan to leave this place. Lung Ruoxia said with a smile. Don't tell me you guys want to stay here until the end of the competition? Jimin asked in surprise. How could this be? If she stayed here, how would she have the chance to see Yechen? After all, even if she came to look for Lung Ruoxua every day, she could not guarantee that she would be able to see her sweetheart every time. Why not? Lung Ruoxua laughed. But this is a competition. If we stay here, we won't have the chance to fight with others. Jimin reminded him anxiously. Even if I don't stay here, I'm afraid I won't have many chances to fight with others, right? Or do you want to have a fight with everyone here? Lung Ruoxua said with a smile that was not a smile. Actually, she could not understand it either. Wasn't this the elite competition? Why were there so few chances to fight? When she first entered this place, she was full of pride and passion. Now she had been here for almost a month, and her initial enthusiasm had almost been worn out. At this time, she only wanted to leave this place as soon as the competition was over. She didn't want to stay in this damn place for another moment. I just feel that we shouldn't be stuck in one place. That way, we won't have more chances to see others. Jimin whispered. Before we came here, we've been to many places, but the people we've seen are only these people you see now. So do you still think we should go somewhere else? Moreover, there were only a few days left until the end of the competition, so it was better to stay here. Of course, if you can't stay here any longer, you can go to other places to have a look. I won't stop you. Lung Ruoxua said with a smile. In other words, she was saying that they would not leave this place. I was just making a suggestion. Since no one really wants to move, I will naturally obey the majority. Jimin quickly expressed her position. What a joke. How could she leave alone? Since that's the case, Miss Ji can live here in peace. To be honest, we won't be able to stay here for long. Lung Ruoxua lifted her eyelids and said indifferently. And Jimin nodded unwillingly. Miss Ji, is there anything else? Lung Ruoxua shot a glance at Jimin and continued to ask. It's gone. Jimin said hatefully. She could tell that he was asking her to leave. However, she didn't want to leave this place so soon. She still had a glimmer of hope and wanted to see Yechen. Then I won't send you off. Seeing that Jimin was acting dumb, Lung Ruoxua had no choice but to be direct. After she finished speaking, she immediately closed her eyes and pretended to sleep. At this moment, Baby, who had been lying in her arms, opened his beautiful purple eyes that were overflowing with light. He glanced at Jimin, and a hint of ridicule flashed across his eyes. Seeing the reaction of the man and the beast, Jimin was furious. That damned Lung Ruoxua. Those detestable foxes, She felt a deep blow to her self-esteem. However, I'll have the chance to get back at them for their contempt, Jimin thought to herself. Then, she left Lung Ruoxia's tent in a fit of anger. Cute master. That annoying woman has left. Seeing Jimin leave, the baby cheered and almost danced. And Lung Ruoxua nodded and entered the bangle with the treasure. Compared to their jubilant mood, Jimin's mood wasn't so good. After leaving Lung Ruoxia's tent, she went to look for Ji Yun. Before she even entered Ji Yun's tent, she could hear the sounds of laughter coming from inside. This could not help but make the anger in her heart grow even more. Damn it, she had suffered at Lung Ruoxia's hands, but these guys were actually talking and laughing. In fact, she was being unreasonable. How would she know what had happened between her and Lung Ruoxua? Could it be that because of Lung Ruoxia's cold treatment of her, no one could even smile? Jimin walked into Ji Yun's tent, her heart filled with anger. After seeing Jimin, the people in the tent stopped laughing. Ji Yun looked at her with an unkind expression and said with some displeasure, "What are you doing here? Can't I come?" When Jimin heard this, she was so angry that her lungs were about to explode. Damn it, what kind of attitude was this? No matter what, she was still the young miss of the Ji family, and now they were treating her like an outsider. How could she, who had always been proud and arrogant, tolerate this? Didn't I tell you not to disturb me if there's nothing important? Ji Yun shot a glance at Jimin and said coldly. From his sister's appearance, she must have been treated coldly by Ruoxua. Otherwise, she would not be so flustered and exasperated. "I'm looking for you." Jimin gritted her teeth, her heart filled with endless hatred for Ji Yun. This was her lousy little brother? To think that she loved him so much, but this damn brat always wanted to go against her. If there's something, say it. Ji Yun urged. All of you leave. I have something to discuss with Ji Yun. Ji Min glanced at the people in the tent and said to them. When Ji Tao and Ji Wu heard Ji Min's words, they were about to get up and leave, but they were stopped by Ji Yun. Sister, if you have something to say, just say it. They're not outsiders, so there's no need for them to leave. Ji Yun said unhappily while glaring at the two. He was angry at them for listening to Ji Min. Look at how calm big brother you was. He didn't take Ji Min's words seriously at all. Receiving Ji Yun's glare, Ji Tao and Ji Wu felt aggrieved. Could they not leave? Ji Min was the eldest miss of the Ji family, and her status in the Ji family was above theirs. If they didn't give Ji Min face and were later sued by Ji Min, the losses would outweigh the gains. When Ji Min heard Ji Yun's words, she was so angry that smoke seeped out of her 7 orifices. She fiercely glared at Ji Yun before turning around and leaving in a huff. Seeing Ji Min leave, Ji Yun laughed complacently. He knew that Ji Min's words would be shameful. Hee. Ah. Suddenly, a cry of surprise came from outside the tent. Ji Tao and Ji Wu's expressions changed upon hearing this. It's Sister Min. The two of them asked worriedly. Don't worry about her. She'll be fine. Maybe she just wants to lure us out. Ji Yun disapproved. But Ji Tao was a little uneasy. However, before he could finish his sentence, he swallowed his words under Ji Yun's glare. Ji Yun's gaze just now was so frightening. At this moment, the earth suddenly trembled, and the entire space trembled. Ji Yun and the others looked at each other, and then rushed out of the tent without hesitation. At the same time, Lung Ruoxue, the demon Lu Tao, Cuizhu, Meng Bao, and Zhou Kuan, who felt that something was amiss, ran out of their tents. They gathered together when they saw Ji Yun and the others. What happened? Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but ask. Her beautiful eyes were searching everywhere. Other than Ji Min, everyone was here. Didn't that mean that something had happened to Ji Min? However, just as she finished her sentence and before the crowd could respond, the space in front of them started to distort. Following that, a few white lights flashed and enveloped Lung Ruoxue and the rest within. When the blinding light disappeared, Lung Ruoxue and the others opened their eyes. They realized that they were no longer in their campsite. Without realizing it, they had been transported to a strange and mysterious place. Where is this place? Everyone looked at each other in surprise. They were currently in a space filled with dense fog. This space seemed to be boundless, and it was much better than where they had been before. At the very least, there was no oppressive and depressing atmosphere here. Even the spiritual qi was unusually dense. Not only that, they felt extremely comfortable after only staying here for a while, as if they had returned to their mother's warm embrace. Just as everyone was still in a state of shock and disbelief, a door that was shimmering with white light appeared from the fog. The door was so tall that it reached the clouds. The door exuded a majestic aura. With a bang, the door opened to both sides. The aura that came from the door seemed to be calling Lung Ruoxue and the others, causing them to walk towards the door involuntarily. Chapter 1899. Dreamdust Space 1. Lung Ruoxue and the rest followed the feeling in their hearts and walked through the door. After passing through a wide passage, they arrived at a square. At this moment, the square was already filled with people. However, most of them looked very confused. It was obvious that they had not yet adapted to the sudden change. Not only were there god-level masters, but there were also divine lords, divine kings, and divine emperors. It should be said that the representatives of almost all the families who had come to participate in the competition were gathered here. Seeing these people, Lung Ruoxue's suspicion grew even deeper. What did he mean by gathering all of them together? However, she still maintained a calm and composed look on her face. At this moment, the Ning family's participants saw Lung Ruoxue and quickly went up to greet her. Miss Lung, we finally get to see you. The one who spoke was an elder of the Ning family. He was about 40 years old, handsome, and had the strength of a divine emperor. The moment he saw Lung Ruoxue, his eyes seemed to be filled with tears. He was also the vice leader of the Ning family. When Lung Ruoxue saw how agitated this old man was, she could not help but feel a sense of exasperation. What was going on? Why did it seem like the emperor had found his organization when he saw her? Or did something happen that she didn't know about? Elder Yi, what happened? Lung Ruoxue asked with a suspicious look. No, it's just that I haven't seen Miss Lung for too long, and I really miss her. Elder Yi said, slightly embarrassed. His cheeks were even slightly red. When the demon heard his words, he glared and snorted coldly, dissatisfied. When Elder Tong saw the evildoer's reaction, he was so frightened that he shrunk his neck. He smiled bitterly and transmitted his voice to Lung Ruoxue. Miss Lung, to be honest, this time's elite gathering seems to be different from the past. I don't know if this is a good or bad thing. AI. What's different? Lung Ruoxue was very curious. In the previous elite meetings, everyone should have already started fighting by now. However, we are still standing here. More importantly, we don't even know where we are. However, what is certain is that we can't start a war even if we want to. It seems that our strength has been restricted by someone, and no one can fight. Elder Chu explained helplessly. Previously, there were families who hated each other. When they saw each other, they were ready to attack. However, they realized that they could not use their divine skills at all. From that, they knew that they could not attack at this time. How did this happen? Lung Ruoxue asked in surprise. No wonder these people were all standing here with blank expressions. Now she finally knew the reason. Furthermore, now that everyone is gathered together, if we were to really fight, I'm afraid. Elder Chu wanted to speak but stopped halfway. However, Lung Ruoxue understood what he meant. Now that the participants from the various groups were all gathered together, the number of casualties would be incalculable if they were to fight. This would also give those who wanted revenge the best chance. Hence, if they were to really fight, this battle would be extremely bloody. Elder Yi, now that things have come to this, there's no point in thinking about it. However, I believe that since someone has gathered all of us here, they definitely won't let us stand here stupidly. So, since we're already here, let's just take it one step at a time. When the time comes, everyone will adapt to the situation. Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. And Elder Tong nodded his head slightly. After seeing Lung Ruoxue, his originally anxious heart actually calmed down. Furthermore, the family head had repeatedly reminded them to follow Lung Ruoxue's lead if they had the chance to see her after entering the special space. Hence, when he saw Lung Ruoxue, it was as if he had seen his backbone. Following that, Lung Ruoxue transmitted her voice to evildoer, Ji Yin and the others, briefly explaining the situation that Elder Yi had told her. After everyone understood, they stood at their original positions and waited for the situation to unfold. Miss. All of a sudden, Lung Ruoxue heard a familiar voice. She raised her head and saw Fengde, Lin Yuan, and the rest walking in their direction with large strides. However, who was the girl following behind them? The girl looked very young. She had a childish face and was full of youthfulness. Although she wasn't very beautiful, she gave people a feeling of vitality. Miss, we've missed you so much. Just as Lung Ruoxue was making wild guesses, Fengde and the rest had already walked in front of her. I also missed you guys. Lung Ruoxue said with a faint smile. Fengde and the others seemed to be in good spirits, so they shouldn't have encountered any big trouble. You're their master? At this moment, a voice interrupted Lung Ruoxue, and Fengde. Lung Ruoxue lifted her eyelids slightly and looked at the woman who spoke indifferently. Then she gave Fengde a questioning look. Miss, ignore her. She's sick. Fengde quickly said in a bad mood. Looking at the woman who followed him like a shadow, Fengde felt very regretful in his heart. Why did I meddle in other people's business in the beginning? Now he had provoked a big problem that he couldn't get rid of. You're the sick one. You actually dare to say that about me? Don't you know that I'm your future master? When the woman heard Fengde's words, she growled in anger. However, Fengde's reaction was to roll his eyes at her, which made the woman even more furious. When Lung Ruoxue heard the latter's words, she raised her eyebrows in disbelief. Then, she turned to Fengde and said, What do you mean by future master? She did not believe that Fengde was planning to betray her. Young miss, ignore her. Just treat her words as farts. Fengde said rudely. Your words are bullshit. The woman roared and jumped 3 times in anger. Do any of you want to explain to me what's going on? Lung Ruoxue felt a headache coming on when she saw Fengde and the woman fighting like cockfights. I want him. Just give him to me. When the woman heard Lung Ruoxue's words, she immediately went straight to the point. You want him? I'm sorry, but he already has a master. I can't make a decision for him. Hearing the woman's overbearing words, Lung Ruoxue was speechless. She couldn't help but guess in her heart, it's only been a few days since we last met. How did Fengde get involved with Tao Hua? This time, he was probably going to be out of luck, because she could already feel the cold air coming from Green Peach's body. Fengde, you're on your own. Aren't you his master? Why couldn't she make a decision for him? State your price. I want him. The woman said stubbornly. Offer a price? I don't understand what you mean. Lung Ruoxue asked indifferently. Name a price and let me have him. You don't even understand this? The woman looked at Lung Ruoxue, as if she was looking at an idiot. She thought to herself, why is this woman's comprehension ability so bad? To think that she was so pretty, but she was actually a fool. Chapter 1900, Dream Dust Space, 2. It was fortunate that Lung Ruoxue did not know what this woman was thinking. Otherwise, she would definitely be depressed. How was she stupid? It was clearly this woman who didn't make things clear. Moreover, how could feelings be measured by money? He even wanted to buy her subordinates from her. Who did he think she was? She wasn't a human trafficker. I don't understand. My subordinate will not sell. Of course, if he is willing to follow you, I will not stop him. Lung Ruoxue said calmly. You said it. When the woman heard Lung Ruoxue's words, she said happily. Then she turned to Fengde and said, you heard it. She doesn't care about you at all. And she's going to send you to me. Leave her quickly and follow me in the future. When the woman said this, her delicate face was full of pride. However, when Lung Ruoxue heard the woman's words, she could not help but widen her eyes. Did she hear it wrong? When did she say that she would give Fengde to her? Pfft. A sneer sounded in everyone's ears. When the woman heard the laughter, she raised her head unhappily and looked at the person who laughed. What are you laughing at? What's so funny about that? The woman was furious because her intuition told her that this person was laughing at her. The person who laughed out loud was Ji Yun. He spoke with an innocent expression. Miss, although I don't know who you are, I don't think it's a good idea to force a deal, right? Force selling? What do you mean by that? The woman didn't understand Ji Yun's words. Ruoxue didn't say that she would give her subordinate to you. Why are you overthinking it? Ji Yun said honestly. Why not? Didn't she say so? If Fengde was willing to follow me, wouldn't she stop him? The woman replied matter-of-factly. Then, she glared at Lung Ruoxue and said fiercely, are you going back on your word? I'm not going back on my word, but Fengde didn't say he wanted to follow you, did he? Lung Ruoxue was helpless. It seemed like there was a generation gap between them. Hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, the woman immediately turned to look at Fengde and pressed on. Fengde, tell your previous master that he'll be following me from now on. I won't follow you. I told you. Fengde rolled his eyes and said speechlessly. There was something wrong with this woman's ability to understand. How could you lie to me? When the woman heard this, tears immediately welled up in her eyes, ready to flood the Golden Mountain at any moment. How did I lie to you? Don't spout nonsense. Fengde's eyes widened as he said in disbelief, fuck. This woman was too good at spouting nonsense. Wasn't she clearly maligning him? Thinking of this, he looked uneasily at Green Peach's cold face. His heart was so nervous that it was like a little rabbit. He was jumping around. He was definitely more wrong than Doi. You saved me, so you're mine. How can you abandon me? The moment the lady finished speaking, Lung Ruoxue and the rest had a strange look on their faces. It seemed like this was trouble caused by saving someone. I save people and save problems? Fengde said angrily, fuck. This was infuriating. If he had known this would happen, he would have let this damned woman live and die on her own. Now he had saved her, but he had gotten himself into trouble. What was this? Since you've saved me, shouldn't you be a good person to the end? The woman said in a low voice. A good person to the end? Does it mean that I have to follow you in the future? If that's the case, I'd rather be the bad guy. Fonda said unhappily. He had had enough of this woman. He really didn't know what this woman's brain was made of. How could she have such a strange idea? Or was it that whoever saved her would be unlucky? Fonda's words made the woman's tears start to well up in her eyes, but they did not fall. When she heard this, everyone understood and could not help but sigh in their hearts. You can't just save people randomly. Otherwise, if he saved someone like this and had to follow her in the future, he would be depressed. Fonda's matter rang an alarm bell for everyone. Lung Ruoxia's head started to hurt as she watched the woman sobbing in front of them. What was going on? She couldn't help but glare at Fonda. Then she said to the woman, "Now that things are clear, you can give up, right? Why did it turn out like this?" Sob. In what way am I inferior to you? Why is he unwilling to follow me? I just want to find a guard who can protect me. Is that wrong? The woman said with an aggrieved expression, as if Fonda had done something wrong to her. Is this how you treat your savior? Hearing the woman self-reproaching, Lu Tao couldn't bear it anymore and asked, "Damn it, where did this top-grade item come from?" He had saved her, yet she did not know how to be grateful. She even wanted him to be her guard for the rest of her life. What kind of logic was this? He didn't owe her anything, so why should he be at her beck and call? What's wrong with me? The woman asked in confusion, a tear still dripping from the corner of her eye. Fonda saved you. It's fine if you don't know how to be grateful to him, and we don't care. But what right do you have to make him your guard? Who do you think you are? Lu Tao roared. I'm already repaying him by letting him be my guard, don't you know that? The woman asked. What kind of repayment is this? Don't tell me you think it's an honor to be your guard? Lu Tao mocked. Of course. Being able to be my guard is enough to show that I think highly of him. You should know that not just anyone is qualified to be my guard. The woman's face was filled with pride. She truly felt that it was a great honor to be her guard. Hearing this woman's extremely narcissistic words, Lung Ruoxia and the others were completely speechless. It was rare to see a woman who could be narcissistic to this extent. Thank you for thinking so highly of me, but I don't need it. Fonda said, although he had said this more than once. You actually don't know what's good for you? The woman shouted angrily. I don't know what's good for me. I really don't think that being your guard is something worthy of my honor. Fonda said honestly. That's right, who do you think you are? Lin Yuan chimed in. He had seen enough of the show, so he naturally had to speak up for his own people. You shut up. I know you're jealous of him because I don't like you. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's interruption, the woman immediately pointed her spear at Lin Yuan and roared. Thank you for not taking a fancy to me. Otherwise, I would be depressed to death. Lin Yuan snorted. Do you know who I am? How dare you speak to me like this? When the woman saw that Lin Yuan didn't take her seriously at all, she became more and more angry from embarrassment. I don't care who you are. In short, Fonda saved you out of kindness, not to save himself from trouble. So if you know how to repay our kindness, you better disappear from our sight. Otherwise, I don't mind handing you over to that person. Lin Yuan threatened with a smile that was not a smile. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.